Chapter 535. Water Spirit had been watching the conversation between Shadowless and Silver Knife. She was hoping that Shadowless and Silver Knife's discussion would break down. The more Shadowless and Silver Saber talked, the better. It would be best if the two of them fought in the end. Of course, if Shadowless could take care of Silver Saber, then that would be Water Spirit's dream. Unfortunately, Water Spirit was disappointed. She had clearly seen Shadowless killing intent but was stopped by Li Mingshan. Water Spirit naturally knew why Li Mingshan had stopped Shadowless. He wanted to protect Silver Knife so that he could continue to ask for the level 25 equipment from her. Seeing that Shadowless had lost his killing intent from Li Mingshan, Water Spirit became anxious and shouted, "Silver Knife, how dare you talk to Shadowless like that? Do you know who Shadowless is? Even your master has to be respectful when he sees Shadowless. Hurry up and apologize to Shadowless." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Silver Knife sneered, "I don't care if he's Shadowless or Shadow. As long as he ruins my plans, I won't let him go." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan knew that things weren't going well. He wanted to stop Shadowless, but it was too late. Silver Knife had already said what Li Mingshan didn't want to hear the most. Li Mingshan sighed and turned to look at Shadowless. Shadowless' eyes flashed with killing intent again. Li Mingshan knew that things weren't going well. He quickly grabbed Shadowless and whispered, "Brother Shadowless, don't be tricked by Water Spirit. He wants to use you." Shadowless suddenly woke up and slowly turned to look at Water Spirit. Water Spirit saw Shadowless look over and quickly said with a smile, "Brother Shadowless, this Silver Knife doesn't know what's good for him. He dares to talk nonsense to Brother Shadowless. He really doesn't know how to be polite." Shadowless took a deep breath and slowly said, "Water Spirit, you win." After saying this, Shadowless walked to the side. Shadowless knew that if he stayed by Silver Knife's side any longer, he might really kill him. In order to prevent Water Spirit from using him, Shadowless decided to hide far away and no longer care about what happened here. Seeing Shadowless leave, Li Shanshan sneered and turned to look at Shui Ling before also leaving. Seeing this scene, Shui Lingzi sighed in her heart. Such a good opportunity, but she couldn't resolve this matter perfectly. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi suddenly turned to Wu Kedi and said with a smile, "Wu Kedi, your ability to persuade people should be very good. I think it would be better for you to persuade Yin Dao to lower his conditions so that we can reach an agreement as soon as possible." After listening to Water Spirit's words, Wu Kudi shook his head and said, "I can't do it. You, Water Spirit, have a way with words. You'll definitely be able to get twice the result with half the effort." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's tone paused, then he cupped his fists towards Shui Lingzi and continued, "I wish Shui Lingzi success." Seeing that Wu Kudi wasn't going to be fooled, Shui Lingzi didn't care as he still had a way to deal with Yin Dao. Water Spirit slowly walked in front of Yin Dao and said in a low voice, "Yin Dao, do you remember what I just said to you?" Yin Dao sneered, "I don't remember." Shui Lingzi smiled, "It doesn't matter if you don't remember, I can tell you." Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, "I just said that even if you become a disciple of the Godly Knife sect leader, with your martial arts aptitude, you won't be able to get an important position. In other words, you won't be able to get the nourishment of the sect's elixirs to improve your martial arts like the other disciples." Yin Dao turned to look at Shui Lingzi and slowly said, "Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. Just now, Lord Protector said very clearly that I will definitely be able to get the nourishment of the Godly Knife sect's elixirs to improve my martial arts." Shui Lingzi shook her head, "Yin Dao, you're too naive. Just like the story I just told you, the story of two blades. If you were the peerless blade, then you might be able to get an important position from the Godly Knife sect leader and be given a lot of elixirs to improve your martial arts. But unfortunately, you're just an ordinary blade. You're even worse than an ordinary blade because you're seriously injured right now. Even if you heal your injuries, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to make any big progress in your martial arts. So, you're just an ordinary blade and won't be able to get the love of the Godly Knife sect leader. Do you understand now?" Hearing Shui Lingzi compare him to an ordinary blade, Yin Dao was a little angry. He turned to look at Shui Lingzi and sternly shouted, Whether or not the Godly Knife sect leader will give me elixirs is our Godly Knife sect's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Please don't talk about these things anymore. Shui Lingzi sighed. Yin Dao, why are you doing this? You're just running away. You know what I'm saying is true, but you don't want to believe it. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, this is life. You have to face reality and find a solution in reality. With your martial arts talent, even if you join the Godly Knife sect leader with your level 25 equipment, you won't be able to get an important position. With your martial arts talent, if you don't have a large amount of elixirs, you won't be able to make any progress in your martial arts. So, you should just give up. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, the thing that Yin Dao didn't want to think about the most was finally exposed by Shui Lingzi. Yin Dao began to cough violently. Every time he coughed, the vibration caused by his coughing made his broken ribs hurt. But at this moment, Yin Dao felt that this pain wasn't enough. Yin Dao wanted to use this pain to forget the things that he wanted to forget. Amidst the violent coughing and the intense pain, Yin Dao's mind kept recalling Shui Lingzi's words. With your martial arts talent, even if you join the Godly Knife sect leader, you won't be able to get an important position. Thinking of this, Yin Dao only felt a splitting headache. In comparison, the pain from his ribs was almost negligible. Yin Dao's face was filled with pain as he kept coughing violently. His body gradually went limp on the ground, constantly twisting due to the pain. Seeing Yin Dao's painful appearance, Shui Lingzi's heart couldn't bear to see him like this. Yin Dao was just a young man who pursued progress. For his bright future, he wasn't afraid of any difficulties, even sacrificing himself. If Yin Dao's drive was used in other areas, Shui Lingzi could protect him and he would definitely be able to make a name for himself. Unfortunately, Yin Dao used the wrong direction. He wanted her to give him a level 25 equipment, and then use this level 25 equipment to join the Godly Knife sect leader and achieve his dream. This time, in Yin Dao's eyes, was his best opportunity. If his luck was good, he would be able to become the Godly Knife sect leader and achieve his lifelong dream. Chapter 536. Looking at the unwavering Yin Dao who firmly believed in his goal, Shui Lingzi could only sigh and have nothing to say. Although Shui Lingzi had nothing to say, she had to say it because it was related to whether or not he could complete this mission. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sighed in her heart and slowly said, Yin Dao, listen to me. Even if you join the Godly Knife sect, you won't have any future. There's no meaning to it. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Maybe because of the fierce competition, your situation will be even more dangerous than it is now. Shui Lingzi's words were definitely not false. Those who could join the Godly Knife sect were all people with extremely high martial talent. Not only were their martial talent high, but their minds were also stronger than ordinary people. Everyone who joined the Godly Knife sect's sect master dreamed of becoming the next sect master of the Godly Knife sect. Driven by this mentality, there would definitely be a very intense battle. This kind of battle was not limited to martial arts, but also other aspects. For example, the Godly Knife sect master had a pill that could increase one's strength, but he had too many disciples, so who should he give it to? This was a big problem. The competition was too fierce. Everyone wanted it, and everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted it, and everyone wanted it. This created even more intense competition. Yin Dao was very persistent. In this kind of competition, other than being schemed against, his persistence was useless. Although Yin Dao was a madman, it was only because of that level 25 equipment that made him crazy. He could still remember his past memories, which could prove what Shui Lingzi said was true. Not to mention the Godly Knife sect master's disciples, even the ordinary disciples had a lot of disputes. Just like the analogy just now, the analogy of a knife. Even if it was an ordinary knife, as long as it looked good, these ordinary disciples would still fight for it. This was competition. Yin Dao had never won in this kind of competition. Maybe it was because he disdained to compete, or maybe he really couldn't compete with others. Looking at Yin Dao's somewhat dim eyes, Li Mingshan knew that this hateful madman was somewhat moved. Helplessly, Li Mingshan could only step forward and smile at Yin Dao. Yin Dao, Don't listen to Shui Ling's nonsense. The Godly Knife Sect Master has always been fair and just. He treats every disciple equally. Even if he has a treasure, he will equally distribute it to every disciple so that they can progress together and become the pillars of the Godly Knife Sect. Yin Dao blankly raised his head. Lord Protector, is what you said true? Li Shan smiled. Yin Dao, why would I lie to you? You also know that the Godly Knife Sect's Lord's disciples are all highly skilled in martial arts. It's all because the Godly Knife Sect's Lord has always been fair to his disciples and will never favor any one of them. Therefore, Yin Dao, you can rest assured that the situation you mentioned will not happen. Shui Lingzi sneered. Yin Dao, even now, do you still believe his lies? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, I can clearly tell you that this is not a matter of favoritism. It is the responsibility of the Godly Knife Sect Master to select the most outstanding disciple to inherit the position of Godly Knife Sect Master. Therefore, the Sect Master of the Godly Knife Sect would definitely select 2 to 3 disciples from all the disciples, and then nurture them. In the end, he would choose one of these disciples to be his successor. As for the rest of the disciples, I'm afraid they won't be so lucky. Even if they get one treasure, it will only be the leftovers of the few important disciples. There won't be too many treasures. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi sighed. The real treasures are those that can increase a person's strength. They are quite valuable. It can even be said that their value is not lower than level 20 equipment. Some of them are even higher. Yin Dao, think about it. With your mediocre talent, do you think you can get such a valuable thing? This time, without waiting for Yin Dao to answer, Li Shan said, why not? Even if your talent is mediocre, you are still a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect Master. Why can't you get those elixirs? Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused and turned to look at Yin Dao before continuing. Those elixirs are mainly given to the disciples by the Godly Knife Sect Master. Yin Dao, I believe in you. If you perform well, you will definitely get those elixirs. This time, Shui Lingzi didn't wait for him to answer and said, Li Shan, then tell me. Since you are a protector of the Godly Knife Sect, how many elixirs have you gotten? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan's face changed. He was a bit annoyed. This was a pain in his heart. Ever since he joined the Godly Knife Sect, he didn't get many elixirs. But these words couldn't be said in front of Yin Dao. He could only think about it in his heart. Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Shan smiled and said, I'm ashamed to say that the Godly Knife Sect Master gave me so many elixirs. I feel a bit guilty. Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. Guilty. Shui Lingzi didn't believe that Li Shan would feel guilty. Shui Lingzi was also an experienced person. She didn't believe that the Godly Knife Sect Master would give Li Shan many elixirs. Not to mention others, even Shui Lingzi herself was a very obvious example. After being in the Tiangongmen for so many years, with Shui Lingzi's identity, she should have at least a few high-level equipment. However, the fact was that the high-level equipment of the Tiangongmen were all in the warehouse. Shui Lingzi's personal home only had 2 or 3 pieces of equipment. Even these 2 pieces of equipment were given to him because Shui Lingzi had made a great contribution. Therefore, when Li Shan said that the Godly Knife Sect Master gave him a lot of elixirs, Shui Lingzi didn't believe him. Elixirs weren't cabbages that could be found everywhere. Every elixir was quite precious, and it was hard to say how much one had to pay to obtain them. This kind of treasure was something that even the Godly Knife Sect Master wouldn't be willing to use, let alone a little Li Shan. Hearing Li Shan's answer, Shui Lingzi sneered, Li Shan, then tell me, what elixirs did the Godly Knife Sect Master give you? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Shan's face suddenly changed. Of course, it was because he was angry, but more of it was because he was angry. There were indeed many elixirs in the Godly Knife Sect's warehouse, but which one of them belonged to him? Thinking of this, Li Shan angrily said, Shui Lingzi, what elixirs did the Godly Knife Sect Master give me? Do I have an obligation to tell you? Shui Lingzi, don't you think this is ridiculous? Chapter 537. Shui Lingzi shook her head slightly. Li Shan, since you said that you were given a lot of elixirs, Then tell us, what elixirs have you used to make us envious? Li Shanshan was angered by Shui Lingzi's words, but he had no way to refute and could only slowly speak. Shui Lingzi, I don't need to talk to you about this. Hearing Li Shanshan's answer, Shui Lingzi didn't probe further and turned to look at Yin Dao with a smile. Yin Dao, I'll tell you the truth, if you want to advance by leaps and bounds in martial arts and become a master of martial arts, unless you have a lot of elixirs to nourish you, otherwise, with your martial arts aptitude, it is absolutely impossible. Yin Dao raised his head to look at Shui Lingzi and angrily said, Shui Lingzi, are you looking down on me? Shui Lingzi shook her head. No, I just want to tell you the truth, if you want to stand out in martial arts, it is basically impossible. After Shui Lingzi finished speaking, she turned her head to look at Yin Dao, secretly proud of herself. At this moment, Yin Dao's face was full of pain. It seemed that he had figured out that what Shui Lingzi said was true. Even if he joined the Godly Knife sect, without a lot of elixirs to support him, it was absolutely impossible to stand out. And if he wanted the support of the Godly Knife sect master, he must have extraordinary talent. Unfortunately, Yin Dao didn't have that, his martial arts aptitude was only mediocre. Thinking of this fact, Yin Dao painfully shed tears. Suddenly, he looked up to the sky and shouted, No, this is not the truth, I don't want this truth, I want to succeed, I want to stand out, I want to practice martial arts, I want to be admired by everyone. Listening to Yin Dao's incoherent shout, everyone's heart once again rose a sense of pity. Yin Dao's shout at this time, wasn't it also the shout in their hearts when they were young? When they were young, they also wanted to succeed, they also wanted to stand out, but none of them shouted out like Yin Dao, and none of them pursued without scruples like Yin Dao. After Silver Knife looked up at the sky for a while, he coughed violently again. Following this violent coughing, Silver Knife could no longer stand steadily and slowly fell to the ground. Although everyone pitied Yin Dao, no one went to help him. Everyone knew that Yin Dao had already gone crazy. If anyone went to help him now, they might get into trouble. Yin Dao lay on the ground and coughed for a long time. After coughing out 2 mouthfuls of blood, he finally calmed down. He silently lay on the ground and looked up at the night sky, mumbling to himself. Why? Why is it like this? I've already worked so hard, but why can't I succeed? Could it be that my life is already destined to be mediocre and mediocre? Cough cough, after a series of violent coughs, Yin Dao looked up to the sky and shouted again, I don't want to accept this. I really don't want to accept this. There are so many successful people in the world. Why am I not one of them? Seeing that Yin Dao was shouting madly, no one said anything. They all stood far away and silently watched. Yin Dao was so heavily injured, but he didn't shed a single tear. But now, tears were streaming down his face. At this moment, just as Yin Dao's eyes dimmed, Li Shanshan suddenly took a step forward and said in a low voice, Yin Dao, don't give up. As long as you work hard, you will definitely succeed. Yin Dao turned his head and looked at Li Shanshan. He suddenly laughed wildly, You lied to me. You've been lying to me all this time. Hearing this, Li Shanshan's face suddenly changed. But it only lasted for a moment before it returned to normal. Yin Dao, don't forget that there is still a level 25 equipment waiting for you at Water Spirit's place. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan's tone paused. He took a step towards Yin Dao and continued, If you have this level 25 equipment, even if you don't want to become a disciple of the Godly Knife sect, you can use this equipment to exchange for a type of elixir. Your martial arts talent is indeed very poor, but with the elixir you exchange for, won't you be able to increase your strength? Isn't that good? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao's eyes lit up again as he muttered to himself. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Level 25 equipment is so precious. I believe that I can also exchange it for an extremely precious elixir. As long as I can eat this elixir, my strength will increase greatly. Haha. After saying those words, Yin Dao once again faced the sky and madly laughed. However, this time around, his laughter was one of joy, and not despair like the laughter from before. Looking at Silver Saber, who was laughing madly at the sky, everyone looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. Yin Dao laughed for a while and then coughed violently before slowly getting up, turning to Shui Lingzi and saying with a smile, Water Spirit, I've thought it through. As long as I take the level 25 equipment you gave me and exchange it for an elixir, then I can immediately change this situation. Don't you think so, Water Spirit? Hearing Yin Dao's words, Water Spirit's expression didn't change. She only shook her head and said with a cold smile, Yin Dao, even if you have the equipment, where are you going to exchange it for an elixir? Hearing this, Yin Dao paused for a moment. I can go to the Godly Sword sect to exchange it. I believe that the sect master of the Godly Sword sect will agree to exchange it with me. Water Spirit shook her head. Yin Dao, I don't think that will work. When the disciples of the Godly Sword sect go out on official business, anything they obtain will belong to the Godly Sword sect. Yin Dao, I don't know if what I said is right or not. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Yin Dao laughed. As long as I offer this equipment, they will reward me with an elixir. Wouldn't that be great? Water Spirit shook her head again. There are many types of elixirs. Some can increase physique, some can increase strength, and some can detoxify. In short, there are many types of elixirs. Which one do you want to exchange for? Hearing this, Yin Dao sneered. Of course I want to exchange it for an elixir that can increase strength. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Water Spirit nodded and continued, you want to exchange for a pill that can increase your cultivation, but you should know that there are many types of pills that can increase one's cultivation. Some can only increase one's cultivation by a small amount, while others can increase one's cultivation by a large amount. There are even some pills that can directly increase a person's cultivation by a whole level. What kind of pill do you think you should exchange for? Yin Dao thought for a moment and said with some uncertainty, I should be able to exchange it for an elixir that can increase a person's realm. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing. After all, level 25 equipment is quite precious. Exchanging it for an elixir shouldn't be a problem. Hearing this, Water Spirit nodded. No problem, absolutely no problem. With level 25 equipment, you can exchange it for a very good elixir. Chapter 538. Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Yin Dao was relieved. Water Spirit, since it's like this, then hurry up and give me the level 25 equipment. I'll go and exchange it for an elixir to increase my strength. Water Spirit nodded. Okay, I can give you a level 25 equipment. As soon as Water Spirit's voice fell, the surrounding people gasped. After Li Mingshan heard this, he sucked in 2 breaths of cold air, looking at Shui Lingzi with disbelief. Could it be, this matter was settled just like this? The level 25 equipment of his dreams was in his hands just like this. Although the equipment wasn't in Li Mingshan's hands yet, Li Mingshan believed that the equipment that Water Spirit gave to Yin Dao would soon be transferred to him. That level 25 equipment was something that even the Godly Knife Sect's sect master didn't have. When Li Shan thought that he was going to have level 25 equipment, he suddenly felt dizzy. All of this felt like a dream. Thinking about how he could wear that level 25 equipment and roam the South County, he couldn't help but be excited. Thinking about how precious the level 25 equipment was, Li Shan fiercely pinched himself. He wanted to prove that he wasn't dreaming. Pain. It really hurt. This wasn't a dream, all of this was real. The pain made Li Shan wake up in an instant. He suddenly remembered, if he really wore that level 25 equipment, would it really be suitable? His martial arts skills were only considered average in the South County. It was not too high. If he wore that equipment, would he really be safe? Thinking about this, Li Shan subconsciously glanced at Wu Ku Di and Shadowless, only to find that their eyes were filled with jealousy. Not only that, Li Mingshan also saw something else in their eyes. Seeing this kind of gaze, Li Shan's heart went cold and his mind became clearer. Although Li Shan was excited, he wasn't crazy. He had his own thoughts and could infer what was best for him. If he really wore that level 25 equipment, what would the consequences be? Looking at Wu Kedi and Shadowless' eyes, Li Mingshan understood. If he really wore that level 25 equipment, he was afraid that not only would it not bring him any safety, but it would also attract countless troubles. There were too many people who wanted to get their hands on level 25 equipment. Furthermore, his martial arts weren't top-notch. He was only a mid-tier expert. A target like him was the best target for those experts to snatch equipment from. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan once again sucked in a breath of cold air, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. If he really wore that level 25 equipment, it would definitely attract countless experts to fight over it. At that time, would he be able to keep this level 25 equipment? No, by that time, it would no longer be about the equipment. It would be about whether or not he could save his life. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and began to hesitate. If he obtained that level 25 equipment, should he wear it or not? Li Shanshan turned his head and looked at Silver Knife. Suddenly, he had an idea. If he offered this level 25 equipment to the Godly Knife Guild Master, would he accept him as a disciple? Thinking of this possibility, Li Shanshan's heart began to become lively. If he could become the Godly Knife Guild Master's disciple, that would be a great thing. Although he was a bit old, Li Shanshan believed that the Godly Knife Sect's sect master wouldn't mind his age for the sake of the level 25 equipment. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan's thoughts became clear. If he really became the Godly Knife Guild Master's disciple, with his martial arts talent, he should be able to quickly stand out among the numerous disciples of the Godly Knife Guild Master. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan became excited. If he could stand out among the numerous disciples of the Godly Knife Guild Master, then wouldn't that mean that he would also have the opportunity to become the Godly Knife Guild Master? Thinking of this, Li Shanshan made up his mind. As long as he obtained that level 25 equipment, he would immediately offer it to the Godly Knife Guild Master and ask him to accept him as a disciple. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan raised his head and looked at Water Spirit. He loudly asked, "Water Spirit, are you serious?" After Li Shanshan said this, he was shocked. When did his voice become so hoarse? Hearing Li Shanshan's question, Water Spirit nodded, "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you?" Hearing Water Spirit's answer for the second time, Shadowless' eyes were about to spit fire from jealousy. Giving a piece of level 25 equipment to a nobody? Wasn't this a bit too much? Silver Blade was only an insignificant character. Shadowless never thought that Water Spirit would actually agree to Silver Blade's condition. From Shadowless' point of view, Water Spirit agreeing to give Silver Blade a level 20 equipment was already a miracle for Silver Blade. But Shadowless never thought that Water Spirit would actually agree, and agree so easily. Looking at Li Shanshan's face full of joy, Shadowless was so jealous that he almost couldn't breathe. Shadowless was very clear that Silver Blade was just a madman. Even if he obtained the equipment, he definitely wouldn't be able to get it. Shadowless was sure that the person who would actually get the equipment would be the smiling Li Shanshan. On the side, Wu Kudai was also very angry. Although Silver Blade's injuries weren't light, his brother's injuries weren't light either. If he was as shameless as Silver Knife, would he also get a piece of level 25 equipment? Looking at the calm Water Spirit, Wu Kudai wanted to open his mouth several times, but no words came out. The matter just now was already over. No one would bring it up again. In other words, his brother's injuries were in vain. Silver Blade, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly said, "Water Spirit, since you've already agreed to my condition, then hurry up and fulfill it." Hearing Silver Blade's question, Water Spirit shook her head, "Not now?" Hearing Water Spirit's answer, Silver Blade angrily said, "Water Spirit, why not? You clearly agreed just now." Speaking up to hear, Silver Blade paused for a moment before coldly saying, "Water Spirit, are you going back on your word?" Hearing this, Water Spirit hurriedly waved her hand and proudly said, "Silver Blade, when have I, Water Spirit, ever gone back on my words? Don't worry, as long as I promise you, I will definitely keep it." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened his mouth and said, "Water Spirit, we don't believe in your promise. Unless you can take out level 25 equipment right now, if you really go back on your word, then wouldn't we be in trouble?" Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Water Spirit shook her head. Chapter 539. Water Spirit shook her head, "No problem, as long as Yin Dao is willing, I can write a contract for him at any time." Hearing Water Spirit's words, the crowd once again sucked in a breath of cold air. Yin Dao looked at Water Spirit in disbelief. He almost couldn't believe that these words came from Water Spirit's mouth. Just now, Water Spirit had refused to give him this level 25 equipment in every possible way, unwilling to give him this level 25 equipment. But now, Water Spirit actually agreed so easily. This made Yin Dao a bit suspicious. Yin Dao looked at Water Spirit and asked in confusion, "Water Spirit, why didn't you agree just now?" Water Spirit sighed, "Yin Dao, to be honest, I thought you wouldn't want the level 25 equipment, so I wanted to persuade you." Speaking to here, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, "But I saw that you really wanted the level 25 equipment to win your future, so I couldn't bear to refuse you. So I decided to help you. Is there a problem with that?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly started to tear up. Now that things had reached this point, there was finally a perfect result. He was heavily injured by Fire Spirit and could finally win a chance for his future. As long as he had the level 25 equipment, he could exchange it for a spirit herb from the Godly Sword Sect's sect master to increase his strength. He believed that with the help of that spirit herb, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds, reaching an unprecedented height. Thinking about how he would shake the South region in the future, Yin Dao's eyes started to tear up even more. Under the surging emotions, Yin Dao violently coughed again. Although the coughing still caused pain in his ribs, Yin Dao's face was full of smiles, as if this kind of pain was a kind of enjoyment. Seeing this scene, Wu Kedi couldn't bear it any longer. He coughed twice to attract Shui Ling's attention before taking 2 steps forward. Just as he was about to speak, he felt a little embarrassed, so he coughed twice to cover it up. Only then did he manage to dissipate some of the awkwardness. "Water Spirit, since the matter between you and Yin Dao has come to an end, then the matter of you injuring my big brother should also be settled." Hearing Wu Kedi mention this, the Fire Spirit on the side suddenly roared, "Wu Kedi, you dare to say that I injured your big brother? Don't forget, your big brother also injured me. Shouldn't you compensate me?" After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Wu Kedi let out an awkward laugh and softly said, "Fire Spirit, that's not the same. You were the one who injured my big brother first, so naturally you have to treat him. I'm not wrong about that, am I?" Fire Spirit heard this and sneered, "Wu Ku Di, is your big brother Wu Ku Tian made of paper? Can he be broken with a single hit?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Wu Ku Di immediately became angry. "Fire Spirit, what nonsense are you talking about? Your big brother is made of paper." Fire Spirit sneered and said, "Since you're not made of paper, then why did you get injured in one hit and want us to compensate you?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Wu Ku Di froze for a moment and then said angrily, "Fire Spirit, you were the one who ambushed my big brother first. My big brother was caught off guard and was heavily injured by you. You have to admit this." Fire Spirit nodded, "I was the one who did it, but your big brother wasn't injured. Even if he was injured, it was only a light injury." Speaking up to here, Fire Spirit paused and looked at Wu Ku Tian in the distance before continuing, "If I'm not wrong, your big brother's injury should have been healed by now." Hearing this, Wu Ku Di froze for a moment. Fire Spirit was right. His big brother was slightly injured, but he was fine now. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was the issue of compensation. Thinking up to here, Wu Ku Di coughed again and slowly said, "Fire Spirit, you were too ruthless and didn't know how to control your strength. My big brother has already suffered internal injuries." Speaking up to here, Wu Ku Di paused for a moment before continuing, "Fire Spirit, do you know what an internal injury is? It's an injury that can't be seen from the outside." Hearing Wu Ku Di's twisted logic, Fire Spirit angrily said, "Go to hell, what internal injury? If your big brother is willing to stand here and let me punch him, then I'll admit that he has internal injuries. What do you think?" Hearing this, Wu Ku Di's heart suddenly moved as he quickly smiled and said, "Fire Spirit, is this true?" Hearing Wu Ku Di say this, Shui Spirit, who had been silent, couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Is what Fire Spirit said true? Are you really willing to let Fire Spirit punch your big brother?" After hearing Shui Ling's words, Wu Ku Di quickly turned to Wu Ku Tian and nodded, "No problem." Shui Spirit coldly smiled and asked, "Wu Ku Di, aren't you afraid that Fire Spirit really didn't control his strength and really injured your big brother?" Hearing Shui Spirit's words, Wu Ku Di hesitated again. He raised his head and looked at Fire Spirit. After a while, he nodded again. Fire Spirit, if you mean what you say, then go ahead and hit him. When he said this, although Wu Kudai didn't ask his big brother, he was sure that his big brother would agree. If they were heavily injured by Shui Spirit, then they would get a piece of level 25 equipment. That was the legendary level 25 equipment. In the entire South region, there were less than 10 of them. If they could get a piece of level 25 equipment after taking a punch, even Wu Kudai would want to take a punch like that. Moreover, Wu Kudai was sure that even though Shui Spirit spoke fiercely, they wouldn't dare to be ruthless. This wasn't Wu Kudai's confidence, it was the truth. Wu Kudai and his brother weren't the only ones here. Their uncle, Wu Lai, was also here. If Fire Spirit dared to be ruthless and cripple Wu Kutian or directly kill him, then Wu Lai wouldn't just sit by and watch. With Wu Lai's martial arts, it would be too easy for him to deal with Shui Spirit and his brother. It was because of this that Wu Kudai was sure that Fire Spirit wouldn't be ruthless. In other words, this transaction would definitely be a profitable one. Realizing this, Wu Kedi laughed out loud. Fire Spirit, if you want, then go ahead. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Fire Spirit was stunned. He was just saying some ruthless words, but he didn't think that Wu Kudai would take it seriously. Fire Spirit turned to look at Wu Ketian in the distance and then turned to look at Wu Kedi in front of him. He asked in confusion, Wu Kedi, why are you doing this? Why do you have to let me punch you before you're happy? Chapter 540. Hearing Fire Spirit's question, Wu Kedi calmly said, my big brother was injured by you, but you said that you would only compensate us if you hit him again. Wu Kedi paused for a bit before continuing, since you put forward such a condition, then I will naturally satisfy you. Fire Spirit looked at Wu Kedi in shock. Just because of compensation, you'd rather let me hit your big brother? Aren't you afraid that I'll hit too hard and cripple your big brother? Wu Kedi shook his head. It's fine. As long as you're happy, then just do it. No matter how hard you hit him, I won't blame you. Fire Spirit looked at Wu Kedi in shock and suddenly shouted, crazy, Wu Kedi, you're crazy. At this moment, Shadowless, who had been silent all this time, suddenly shouted, me too, you also injured me. Shouldn't you compensate me too? Hearing Shadowless words, Fire Spirit turned around in shock. After a while, he shouted again, you're crazy too, Shadowless, you're crazy too. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Shadowless angrily said, Fire Spirit, you're the crazy one. Hurry up and compensate me. Seeing this, Wu Kedi naturally didn't want to be outdone. He also stepped forward and shouted, Fire Spirit, you injured my big brother. We need to settle this debt. Shadowless loudly said, me too, Fire Spirit. You injured me first, so of course you need to solve my problem first. Wu Kedi also loudly said, we came first, so of course we need to solve our problem first. Hearing the chaotic arguments of the crowd, Water Spirit suddenly roared. All of you, get out of here. Water Spirit's words were said with all her strength. Everyone was caught off guard and was shocked. The scene suddenly became silent. Seeing that everyone had quieted down, Water Spirit coldly said, I've already made myself very clear. Each of your 3 families will get 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. If any of you object, then this agreement will immediately be voided. Do you understand? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kudai stepped forward and loudly said, but you injured Silver Knife and gave him a piece of level 25 equipment as compensation. My big brother was also injured by you. Don't tell me you don't care. This is too unfair. Water Spirit turned to look at Wu Kedi and coldly said, Wu Kedi, did you not hear what I just said? Speaking up to hear, Water Spirit's tone paused for a bit before she continued, if you're not satisfied with our agreement just now, then I'll announce that our previous agreement doesn't count. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kedi was stunned and then angrily said, Water Spirit, what do you mean? We already have an agreement, why are you not keeping it? Shui Lingzi sneered and said, Wu Kedi, you're the one who started this, don't blame me. Wu Kedi angrily said, Water Spirit, then tell me, why can this brat Silver Knife get a piece of level 25 equipment while my big brother's injuries aren't light? Why can't he get any compensation? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Water Spirit turned to look at Silver Knife and said with a smile, "Silver Knife, this brat is ambitious, persistent, courageous, and patient. Such a good brat, how can I not help him?" Wu Kedi was stunned when he heard this. He turned his head and looked at Yin Dao. He didn't realize that Yin Dao had so many good points. Water Spirit's tone paused for a bit before she continued, "So, your big brother's situation is different from Silver Knife's. Your Wu family has so many resources, you don't need the little that I can give you. But Silver Knife is different. What he needs the most right now is help. With this brat's determination, as long as he gets a little help, he'll definitely soar into the sky." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit turned to look at Silver Knife and said with a smile, "Silver Knife, I believe in you. You can definitely do it." Listening to Shui Ling's words, Yin Dao only felt a warm current flow into his heart, instantly gathering in his eyes, causing tears to flow down his cheeks once more. For so many years, no one cared about him as much as Water Spirit did, understood him. "Water Spirit, thank you. I won't forget you." Wu Kudi saw this touching scene and his heart was filled with anger. He turned to Shui Lingzi and shouted angrily, "Water Spirit, I think you're looking down on my Wu family, right?" Water Spirit shook her head. "How would I dare to look down on your Wu family? The Wu family is famous in the South region and has a lot of talents. How could I look down on you? It should be your Wu family looking down on me." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit's tone paused and she sighed before continuing, "If your Wu family looked down on me, you wouldn't put forward such a childish condition." Wu Kedi angrily said, "Then you injured my big brother. How should we settle this account?" Shui Lingzi sneered and said, "Do we have to compensate for sparring? Then let me ask you, do we also have to compensate for sparring between fellow disciples? If that's the case, then you, Wu Kedi, are now a millionaire." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kedi gritted his teeth and angrily said, "You're saying that my big brother and Fire Spirit were sparring?" Water Spirit sneered, "Isn't that the case?" Hearing Shui Ling's words, Wu Kedi suddenly flew into a rage. He took a step forward and shouted, "All right then, let's compare notes on martial arts." Water Spirit turned to look at Wu Kedi and sneered, "Wu Kedi, do you really want to spar with me?" Wu Kedi gritted his teeth and asked, "Water Spirit, do you not dare?" Water Spirit sighed, "If the two of us were to exchange pointers, then our previous conditions would no longer count." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kedi froze and began to hesitate. Seeing that Wu Kedi was speechless, Shadowless stepped forward and loudly said, "Water Spirit, no matter what, Fire Spirit injured us. Even if you don't compensate us with level 25 equipment, you should at least compensate us with level 20 equipment." Water Spirit turned to look at Shadowless and sneered, "Shadowless, do you really think so?" Shadowless saw this and felt guilty, but he still forced a smile and said, "Water Spirit, are you saying that you injured us fake?" Water Spirit sighed, "I want to solve this problem fairly. I'll give you the equipment and take away Kikyomen's people. This matter will be solved perfectly." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit's tone paused for a bit before continuing, "But you guys keep making excuses and keep raising new conditions to make things difficult for me. Shadowless, I'll tell you now that I can't fulfill your conditions." Chapter 541. Water Spirit continued, "If you want to continue the agreement, then do as I say. Otherwise, our agreement is null and void." After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kedi suddenly sneered, "Water Spirit, are you threatening us?" Water Spirit shook her head, "No, I'm just telling the truth." After listening to Water Spirit's answer, Wu Kedi took a deep breath and slowly said, "How about this? My conditions aren't that high. You injured my big brother, so compensate me with a level 15 equipment. This shouldn't be too hard, right?" As soon as Wu Kedi finished speaking, Shadowless hurriedly added, "Water Spirit, Wu Kedi is right. I don't want your level 20 equipment. As long as you give me a piece of level 15 equipment, we'll call it even." Hearing the three's discussion, Li Shan couldn't hold back anymore. The LV-25 equipment was just about to fall into his hands, but Wu Kedi and Shadowless came out to cause trouble. Li Mingshan's heart was burning with anxiety. Li Shan knew that if the three of them couldn't solve this problem, then he definitely wouldn't be able to get his level 25 equipment. If the three of them failed, then all the agreements would be nullified, and his level 25 equipment would float away from his eyes. Thinking up to here, Li Mingshan hurriedly stepped forward in front of the three and loudly said, "Water Spirit, I think it's better this way. Since they said that level 15 equipment is enough, I think it's better for you to pay 2 level 15 equipment and quickly resolve this matter." Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, "Water Spirit, don't forget, your Tiangongmen are still waiting for you at home. They want you to bring back Kikyaromen's people as soon as possible." Hearing this, Water Spirit turned to look at Li Shanshan and said with a smile, "I want to give it to them, but I don't have that much equipment." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Mingshan, think about it, I've already paid you 3 parties 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. Adding on the level 25 equipment from Silver Knife, just how much equipment have I paid for? If it was you, would you have that much equipment to give them?" After hearing Shui Ling's words, Li Shan's expression suddenly stiffened. This time, Water Spirit had indeed paid too much. 6 pieces of level 20 equipment were already out of everyone's expectations. Adding on the even higher level 25 equipment, this was simply unimaginable. To be honest, Li Shanshan was already very satisfied with this matter. Even if he didn't get the 2 level 20 equipment, he was already very satisfied with the level 25 equipment. Therefore, he wanted to resolve this matter as soon as possible so that his dreams would not come to naught. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan turned to Shadowless and said with a smile, "Brother Shadowless, Water Spirit wasn't lying this time. It is indeed difficult for him to take out so many pieces of equipment at once. I think you should just forget about those 2 pieces of equipment." Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shadowless flew into a rage. "Li Shanshan, what did you say? Are you saying that only the Godly Blade sect can obtain level 25 equipment? We don't have the qualifications." Seeing that Shadowless was angry, Li Shanshan hurriedly said with a smile, "Shadowless, that's not what I meant. I just wanted to say that Water Spirit really couldn't take out that many pieces of equipment. I hope you can understand his difficulties." Shadowless sneered. "Li Shanshan, as soon as you got the level 25 equipment, you immediately turned against us. Don't you think you're being a bit too inconsiderate?" Li Mingshan hurriedly waved his hands and said, "Brother Shadowless, what are you talking about? Why would I do something like that? Everything I've done is for the sake of our agreement. Brother Shadowless, once this matter is over, each of us will be able to get 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Isn't that great?" Shadowless shook his head and sighed, "Li Shanshan, don't try to flatter me. If I had a piece of level 25 equipment, I would also be very satisfied." Hearing Shadowless' words, Li Shanshan's face suddenly changed. After a moment, he slowly said, "Brother Shadowless, the level 25 equipment has nothing to do with us. You heard what Water Spirit said. He only gave Silver Blade a piece of level 25 equipment because he helped him. It has nothing to do with us." Shadowless turned his head to look at Li Shanshan and sneered, "Is that so?" This time, without waiting for Li Shanshan to answer, Wu Kedi spoke first, "Brother Shadowless, you're right. If I had a piece of level 25 equipment, I wouldn't fight for it either." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Shanshan, how about this? How about you give me the level 25 equipment and I'll give you the level 15 equipment that Water Spirit gave me. Then this matter will be settled. What do you think?" This level 25 equipment was Li Shanshan's reverse scale. Anyone who dared to fight for it with him would be his enemy. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan reached out and grabbed the hilt of his sword. He coldly asked, "Wu Kedi, what if I don't agree?" Seeing this, Wu Kedi suddenly laughed, "Li Shanshan, do you want to fight with me?" Li Shanshan sneered, "Wu Kedi, even if I fight, what can you do?" Hearing this, Wu Kedi's eyes suddenly turned cold, "Li Shanshan, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Li Mingshan looked at Wu Kedi and sighed, "Wu Kedi, none of us can make a decision on Silver Knife's equipment." At this point, Li Mingshan paused for a moment. He suddenly had an idea and continued, "Wu Kedi, Silver Knife is standing right there. If you have a way, you can talk to him yourself. As long as he agrees to give you the level 25 equipment, I have no objections. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi's eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly asked, Li Shanshan, is what you said true? As long as Silver Blade agrees, you won't object. Li Shanshan nodded and smiled. Wu Kedi, don't worry. What kind of person am I, Li Shanshan? As long as I say it, I will definitely keep it. Hearing Li Shanshan's answer, Wu Kedi nodded and laughed. Okay, I hope you won't go back on your words. After saying this, Wu Kedi walked towards Silver Blade. Looking at Wu Kedi's back, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart. Silver Blade had already gone crazy. He only had one thought in his mind, and that was that level 25 equipment. Li Shanshan didn't believe that there was anyone who could exchange that level 25 equipment from Silver Blade. Wu Kedi wasn't stupid. He also knew that it would be very difficult to exchange that level 25 equipment from Silver Blade. But for that level 25 equipment, even if there was only a glimmer of hope, Wu Kedi had to try. Chapter 542. Wu Kedi wasn't someone who liked to be long-winded. He quickly walked in front of Yin Dao and said directly, Yin Dao, I want to use a level 15 equipment to exchange for your level 25 equipment. Are you willing? After Wu Kedi asked this, he waited for Yin Dao to negotiate with him. This was because he believed that no one would agree to his condition. However, in this world, everything had to be negotiated before it could be settled. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao coldly said, Get out of my way. After Silver Knife said this, Wu Kedi was stunned. He looked at Silver Knife in front of him in disbelief. He was speechless for a while. Li Shan was also stunned. He never thought that Yin Dao would say something like this. Even Li Shan himself wouldn't dare to tell Yin Dao to get out of Wu Kedi's face. After being stunned for a while, Li Shan immediately reacted and rushed toward Yin Dao. At this time, Wu Kedi suddenly roared and swung his fist toward Yin Dao's head. Brat, you're courting death. Wu Kedi angrily attacked. The power behind his punch was shocking. When he swung his fist, there was a whistling sound. Seeing Wu Kedi's fierce punch, Yin Dao didn't even blink. It was as if Wu Kedi's punch wasn't aimed at him, but at someone else. Wu Kedi was proud of himself. Just as he was about to hit Yin Dao's head, Li Shan's fist also arrived. It directly hit Wu Kedi's arm, and Wu Kedi's fist was deflected. Wu Kedi's fist brushed past Yin Dao's ear. The fierce wind from the fist made Yin Dao's hair flutter. Wu Kedi's fist didn't hit Yin Dao, but his heart was still full of anger. He once again kicked toward Yin Dao's waist. Li Shanshan, who was on the side, sensed that something was wrong. Taking advantage of Wu Kedi's unguarded state, he immediately reached out and pushed Wu Kedi's shoulder. Wu Kedi staggered to the side and kicked Silver Knife in the air. Wu Kedi just stabilized his body. He turned his head and fiercely stared at Li Shan. He angrily said, Li Shan, what is the meaning of this? Hearing this, Li Mingshan immediately pulled Wu Kedi to the side and said in a low voice, Wu Kedi, what's the meaning of this? Didn't we agree that you were only going to change your equipment? Why did you start fighting? Wu Kedi coldly looked at Li Shanshan and angrily said, Li Shanshan, didn't you hear him just now? This brat actually told me to get lost. Li Mingshan shook his head and said in a low voice, Wu Kedi, Yin Dao has already gone crazy. Don't you know that? Why are you still arguing with a lunatic? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi clenched his teeth, unable to reply. Everyone had seen Yin Dao's behavior just now. Yin Dao had already gone crazy. If he were to take a lunatic seriously, then wouldn't he be a lunatic as well? Li Shanshan saw that Wu Kedi didn't answer, so he slowly said, Wu Kedi, I just told you to exchange equipment with Yin Dao, but you actually wanted to harm him. No matter what, Yin Dao is still a disciple of our godly saber sect. If he made a mistake, we will naturally punish him according to the sect rules. So, Wu Kedi, don't go near him again. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi clenched his teeth and took a deep breath. He turned his head and looked at Yin Dao. Only then did he remember his purpose just now. Yin Dao had level 25 equipment. Could it be that he would give up such a good opportunity just because he was angry? Thinking of this, Wu Kedi closed his eyes and quickly entered a meditative state. After a while, he felt that the anger in his heart had mostly dissipated. Only then did he slowly open his eyes and turn his head to look at Li Mingshan beside him and said in a deep voice, "Li Shan, I want to try again." Li Shan looked at Wu Kedi and asked, "Wu Kedi, do you really want to try again?" Wu Kedi didn't answer Li Shan's question. He only silently nodded his head, which was his answer. Seeing that Wu Kedi was determined to go, Li Shan sighed and solemnly said, "Wu Kedi, you can go, but I have to remind you that you can't act like you did just now and act recklessly. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." Wu Kedi didn't pay attention to Li Shan's words. He only took a deep breath and walked towards Yin Dao again. Wu Kedi arrived in front of Yin Dao. Looking at Yin Dao's disdainful eyes, anger rose in his heart once again. After being in the South region for so many years, Wu Kedi had never seen someone look at him with such disdain. If such a look appeared in the eyes of a peerless expert, Wu Kedi would have accepted it. After all, his skills were inferior. Even if he didn't admit it, he couldn't beat the opponent. However, the person who looked at him with such a look was actually a nameless disciple of the godly sword sect. This made Wu Kedi somewhat angry. Wu Kedi could guarantee that as long as he used one hand, he could beat Yin Dao to the ground. Such an opponent actually dared to look down on him. This was absolutely unforgivable. However, although Wu Kedi was furious, he still understood that if he wanted to exchange for level 25 equipment, he would have to lower his head to this nameless disciple. Wu Kedi took a deep breath and slowly said, "Yin Dao, I'm really sorry for just now. I was impulsive. But don't worry, I won't do it again." When everyone heard this, they looked at Wu Kedi in disbelief. A dignified expert of a generation had actually apologized to Yin Dao. This was truly unexpected. Wu Kedi looked at Yin Dao with confidence. He believed that with his sincere apology, Yin Dao would definitely treat him well. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao only smiled coldly. "Wu Kedi, I know that you don't dare to hit me. You only dare to scare me. If you really dare to hit me, meet." Although Yin Dao didn't finish his words, the contempt in his words was clearly heard by everyone. Of course, the person who heard it the most was Wu Kedi. He was the closest. Not only did he hear Yin Dao's words, but he also saw Yin Dao's expression. The contempt in Yin Dao's eyes deeply pierced Wu Kedi's heart. Wu Kedi's entire body was trembling. His hands were already subconsciously clenched into fists, ready to attack at any time. Li Mingshan saw that the situation wasn't good. Just as he was about to rush over to save Wu Kedi, he suddenly heard Yin Dao's words again. "Wu Kedi, don't scare me. I don't want to talk to you. Just get lost." Although this was the second time Yin Dao had asked Wu Kedi to get lost, and although Wu Kedi was already mentally prepared, he still couldn't accept it when Yin Dao said something that hurt his self-esteem in front of so many people. Wu Kedi slowly raised his fist and fiercely looked at Yin Dao. "Yin Dao, aren't you afraid that I'll really hit you?" Yin Dao shook his head and contemptuously said, "Wu Kedi, you don't dare?" Hearing such provocative words, Wu Kedi couldn't bear it anymore. He roared again and punched at Yin Dao. Chapter 543. Wu Kedi punched at Silver Knife again. Li Mingshan didn't have enough experience, so he quickly used the same trick and punched Wu Kedi's arm. Wu Kedi's arm was deflected, but this time Li Mingshan was too slow. Even though Wu Kedi's fist was deflected, it still hit Silver Knife's shoulder. Wu Kedi's fist was so powerful that even though it only grazed Silver Knife's shoulder, it still sent Silver Knife flying away with a scream. Li Mingshan was furious when he saw this. He hurriedly blocked Wu Kedi's fist and ran towards Silver Knife. Li Mingshan came to Silver Knife's side and asked in a low voice, "Silver Knife, how are you?" Cough, cough, Silver Knife wanted to say something, but he couldn't because of the violent coughing. He even spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his face was frighteningly pale. Wu Kedi's punch didn't hit his vital parts, but it only made his arm hurt so much that he couldn't move anymore. However, even though he had only hit his shoulder, it had once again aggravated the injuries on his body, causing his injuries to worsen. Looking at Silver Knife, who kept coughing, Li Mingshan turned to Wu Kedi and said angrily, "Wu Kedi, what did you promise me? Why didn't you keep your word and hit Silver Knife again?" After Wu Kedi punched Silver Knife, he started to regret it. Hearing Li Mingshan's question, he answered in a low voice, "I'm so sorry, I couldn't help it." At this moment, Silver Knife was also coughing. After hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Silver Knife said in a low voice while coughing, "Mr. Protector, don't be afraid. Even if you didn't stop him, he wouldn't dare to do anything to me." Cough, cough. Hearing Silver Knife's words, Li Mingshan was angry and shouted, "Silver Knife, shut up." Silver Knife nodded, "Mr. Protector, I know you're doing this for my own good. You really don't have to be afraid. Wu Kedi wouldn't dare to do anything to me." Hearing Silver Knife's words, everyone couldn't help but gasp. Just now when Wu Kedi had punched out, everyone had broken out in cold sweat for Yin Dao. Everyone had seen clearly that Wu Kedi's punch was not a feint. He really wanted to flatten Yin Dao's head. But Silver Knife didn't see such an obvious thing. Shui Lingzi secretly rejoiced that she changed her strategy. If she was the one who attacked, she wouldn't know how angry she would be. Water Spirit secretly hoped that Yin Dao would once again speak rudely to Wu Kedi. Only then would Wu Kedi strike again to deal with Silver Blade, who had provoked him. Lingzi didn't believe that Silver Knife's luck would always be able to protect him. Water Spirit was sure that Li Mingshan would also be careless at times, and as long as Li Mingshan was careless, Wu Kedi would definitely be able to kill Yin Dao. At that time, the levels are level 25 equipments. Wu Ku knew that he was being impulsive again. He clenched his teeth and quickly walked to Silver Knife. "Knife, silvers, knives have shouted, he s, his. Wu Kedi, I'm telling you, you're dreaming." Hearing this, Wu Kedi's brows furrowed again. His eyes spat out flames of anger. "Silver Knife, what are you saying? I'm talking to you nicely, why are you always mocking me?" Silver Knife coldly snorted, "Because you're dreaming." Hearing Silver Knife's repeated provocations, Li Mingshan felt uncomfortable. He turned his head to look at Silver Knife and whispered, Silver Knife wants to exchange with you. Yin Dao, Wu Kedi wants to exchange equipment with you. If you're willing, you should agree. If you're not, then just say what you want. Why are you being so aggressive?" After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi nodded and said in a low voice, "Yin Dao, Li Shanshan is right. Let's talk about it. If you agree, we can trade. Or if you have any conditions, I can negotiate with you. In short, we should both be satisfied." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Silver Knife coldly said, "Okay, then I'll tell you, I don't agree." At this point, Silver Saber paused, and tears suddenly flowed out of his eyes. He choked as he continued, "For this equipment, I was heavily injured by the fire spirit, and now, my arm was broken by you. Wu Kedi, I ask, why did I pay so much? Tell me, is it just to exchange the level 25 equipment that I traded my life for your level 15 equipment? Wu Kedi, tell me, if you were me, would you exchange?" After hearing Silver Knife's words, Wu Kedi subconsciously looked at him. He couldn't help but be shocked. Silver Knife's injuries were too serious. His left shoulder was injured by him, and it might even be fractured. His other arm was broken by Li Mingshan, and his body was punched by Fire Spirit several times. With such serious injuries, if it was anyone else, they would have been seriously injured. However, Silver Knife still had the energy to chat with them. Thinking about how much Silver Knife had paid, Wu Kedi secretly sighed in his heart. Although he knew that Silver Knife wouldn't agree to his conditions, for that level 25 equipment, Wu Kedi still wanted to try. Thinking up to here, Wu Kedi took a deep breath and slowly asked, "Silver Knife, if you have any conditions, I can agree to them." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's heart suddenly moved. He hurriedly said, "Silver Knife, if you are willing, you can also join my family. I can also accept you as my disciple. What do you think?" Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Silver Knife shook his head. "Wu Kedi, I'm sorry, but I already have a plan. I'm going to exchange this level 25 equipment for a high-level elixir to increase my strength." Hearing Silver Knife's words, Wu Kedi suddenly laughed. Silver Knife, if you want to exchange elixirs, why do you have to go back to the Godly Knife sect to exchange? I can tell you the truth. Our Wu family also has a lot of elixirs. If you are willing, we can talk about it in detail. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Silver Knife finally turned his head and suspiciously asked, Wu Kedi, could it be that your Wu family also has a lot of elixirs? Hearing Silver Knife's question, Wu Kedi proudly said, although our Wu family didn't establish a large sect, our main job is to search for elixirs and then sell them to the various sects. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. So, Silver Knife, if you want to exchange that level 25 equipment for elixirs, why don't you come directly to our Wu family? That way, you won't have to go through the middleman to exchange for better elixirs. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Silver Knife didn't react, but Li Mingshan was already furious. Chapter 544. There was a reason for Li Shan's anger. Wu Kedi's family was indeed like what he said, searching for spiritual herbs or treasures everywhere. If Silver Knife had the level 25 equipment, he would have been able to exchange it with Wu Kedi for some good elixirs. However, if Silver Knife really did that, then wouldn't that level 25 equipment have no fate with him? Thinking up to this point, Li Mingshan could no longer hold himself back. He hurriedly shouted, Wu Kedi, what nonsense are you spouting? The level 25 equipment that Silver Knife obtained must be returned to the Godly Knife sect. How could he secretly exchange it with you here? Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi sneered, Li Shan, are you trying to go back on your words? We already agreed that as long as Yin Dao agreed to exchange with me, you wouldn't stop him. How could you go back on your words in such a short time? Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. Li Shan, do you have some ulterior motive? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan angrily said, Wu Kedi, you are the one who is talking nonsense. Yin Dao is our Godly Knife sect's first. If he wants to exchange it for elixirs, it will naturally be handled by our Godly Knife sect. How could we let an outsider like you do it? Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, don't listen to Li Shan's nonsense. Our Wu family has a lot of treasures. If you are willing, as long as you tell me what you want, I will definitely find it for you. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. Brother Yin Dao, tell me, what treasure do you want? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's heart suddenly moved. He understood the meaning behind Wu Kedi's words. Many of the Godly Knife sect's treasures were provided by the Wu family. If he directly exchanged with the Wu family, he should be able to get something better. Thinking up to this point, Yin Dao was about to speak when Li Shan impatiently spoke up again. Yin Dao, if you take this equipment back to the Godly Knife sect to exchange for treasures, maybe the sect leader will be happy and accept you as a disciple. However, if you secretly exchange equipment with the Wu clan, once the sect master of the Divine Saber sect finds out, he will definitely be furious, and it will be detrimental to your future. Therefore, I think it's best for you to bring this equipment back to the Godly Knife sect. Speaking up to this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, even if you can exchange for better equipment with the Wu family, you won't be able to obtain more benefits. You will only be able to obtain a treasure. Before Li Shan could finish his words, he was interrupted by Wu Kedi. Yin Dao, you have to think clearly. If you really want to exchange for elixirs, trading with us is really the best choice. Li Mingshan said angrily, no, Yin Dao is a disciple of the Godly Knife Martial School. He can't trade with outsiders. Wu Kedi sneered, why not? Didn't you, Li Mingshan, just say yes? Why are you going back on your words now? Li Mingshan turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and said coldly, Wu Kedi, it's not that I'm going back on my words, it's just that you've gone too far. Speaking up to this point, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. Just now, you said to exchange equipment, but look, it's changed to elixirs. You've violated the agreement between us. How can you say that I'm going back on my words? Wu Kedi sneered, Li Mingshan, since you said to exchange equipment, then that's fine. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Brother Yin Dao, as long as you agree to exchange equipment, I can give you elixirs. That should be fine, right? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan immediately became furious. Wu Kedi, you've gone too far. Wu Kedi shook his head. I'm just following our agreement. I'll use a level 10 equipment to exchange for Brother Yin Dao's level 25 equipment. To express my gratitude, I'll give him some elixirs. Is there anything wrong with that? Li Mingshan was enraged by Wu Kedi's words, but he couldn't refute it. He could only stand there and stare fiercely at Wu Kedi. Seeing this, Wu Kedi felt proud. He turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Brother Yin Dao, don't worry. As long as you agree to exchange equipment with me, I won't mistreat you. As for that old bastard Li Mingshan, you don't have to be afraid. As long as I'm here, he won't dare to do anything to you. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi's tone paused. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, Brother Yin Dao, our Wu family has a lot of elixirs that can increase your strength. I hope you won't miss it. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was suddenly tempted. Wouldn't it be great if Wu Kedi gave him a piece of equipment and some elixirs to increase his strength? Thinking up to this point, Yin Dao hurriedly turned his head to look at Wu Kedi. Just as he was about to speak, Li Mingshan spoke first. Yin Dao, don't forget that you are now a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect. If you dare to do business with the Wu family, the Godly Knife Sect will not let you go. Speaking up to this point, Li Mingshan's tone paused for a moment before he continued, Yin Dao, you have been in the Godly Knife Sect for so many years. You should know what kind of methods the Godly Knife Sect will use to deal with traitors. What kind of fate those traitors will have. I hope you have thought it through before you make this decision. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao's heart couldn't help but violently beat. The Godly Knife Sect's rules were very strict. If someone dared to violate the sect's rules, they would be severely punished. Thinking up to this point, Yin Dao hesitated. Even if he obtained the elixirs, what if the Godly Knife Sect wanted to punish him? Seeing that everyone was hesitating and hearing Li Mingshan's threat, Wu Kedi suddenly sneered and said, Brother Yin Dao, I have said that you don't have to be afraid. If you are afraid that the Godly Knife Sect will punish you, then immediately leave the Godly Knife Sect and join our Wu family. Then, the Godly Knife Sect's rules will naturally have nothing to do with you. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi's tone paused for a moment before he continued, although our Wu family is not as powerful as the Godly Knife Sect, if we want to protect you, it should not be a problem. Just as Wu Kedi's voice fell, Li Mingshan sneered, Wu Kedi, you really dare to talk big. Do you think that with your Wu family, you can compete with the Godly Knife Sect? Let me tell you, you are dreaming. Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Li Mingshan and asked word by word, Li Mingshan, are you threatening me? Li Mingshan shook his head, Wu Kedi, I am not threatening you. I am warning you. If you dare to let Yin Dao leave the Godly Knife Sect, then you will be the enemy of the Godly Knife Sect. If you are not afraid that the Godly Knife Sect's anger will affect the Wu family, then go ahead and do it. Chapter 545. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi laughed coldly. Li Shanshan, do you think I'll be afraid of what you say? Li Shanshan turned to look at Wu Kedi and laughed coldly. Wu Kedi, it doesn't matter if you're afraid or not. The important thing is, do you really dare to start a war between the Godly Sword Sect and the Wu family? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi could not help but grit his teeth. Li Shanshan was right. He did not dare to start a war between the Godly Sword Sect and the Wu family. Although the Wu family was powerful, the Godly Sword Sect was even more powerful. Their strength could not be underestimated. If the two families really fought, the Wu family would definitely suffer a great loss. They might not be able to recover from this setback. Most importantly, if he did this and caused some people in the family to be dissatisfied, he might be kicked out of the Wu family before the Godly Sword Sect and the Wu family could fight. Thinking about this, cold sweat appeared on Wu Kedi's forehead. When Li Shan saw that Wu Kudi didn't answer his question, he knew that Wu Kudi understood the meaning behind his words. He smiled and said, Wu Kedi, it's just a piece of equipment. Why do you have to make everyone unhappy just for a piece of equipment? Speaking up to this point, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, as the saying goes, take a step back and you'll be able to see the sky. Why do you have to fight for some personal benefits and forget about the big picture? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi clenched his teeth but still did not say anything. He was thinking about how much benefit this would bring him. Although the Wu family was important, he was more important. If he had that level 25 equipment, even if he left the South County, he should be able to live a good life. However, was it worth it for him to leave the Wu family with just a level 25 equipment? Just as Wu Kedi was hesitating, Shadowless, who had been standing on the side, suddenly came to the two of them and said with a smile, "Wu Kedi, I think you should just forget about it. If you get that level 25 equipment, it won't be worth it. Why don't you give it up?" Hearing Shadowless' words, Wu Kedi was even more hesitant. Shadowless smiled and continued, "Li Mingshan, why don't I do business with Brother Silver Knife?" After saying this, Shadowless turned to look at Yin Dao and smiled. "Brother Yin Dao, if you do this business with me, you'll definitely make a profit. As long as you agree to exchange with me, not only can I give you the spirit medicine, but I can also let you leave the South County and live a new life." Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing, "Brother Silverblade, think about it. With the spirit medicine I gave you, you'll be able to go to a new place and live a new life. You'll be able to start a glorious life. Think about it, this is such a wonderful thing. If you are willing, this wish can be realized immediately." Hearing Shadowless' words, Yin Dao's eyes lit up. He had always lived in South County. He had never gone anywhere else and had never had those thoughts. Just now, he only thought that he would be punished by the Godly Knife sect, and would not be able to do as he wished. However, if he listened to Shadowless, things would be different. Although he would lose the level 25 equipment, he could use the spirit medicine to increase his strength. Not only that, he could also leave the South County and live a new life. Thinking that his martial arts would improve and he would be able to live a new life in another place, this wonderful feeling made Silver Knife very tempted. Yin Dao turned to look at Shadowless and asked in a trembling voice, "Shadowless, can you really do that?" Hearing Yin Dao's question, Shadowless sneered inside. He had clearly seen the conversation between Wu Kedi and Li Mingshan, as well as Yin Dao's expression. Shadowless knew what Yin Dao was worried about. That was why he said something that could solve this problem to make Yin Dao feel tempted. Shadowless nodded. "Don't worry, I never lie. If you don't believe that I have this ability, you can ask your protector. He will definitely know my ability." Hearing Shadowless' words, Silver Knife subconsciously turned to look at Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan was coldly looking at him. Seeing Li Mingshan's cold gaze, Yin Dao was shocked. He did not ask the question he wanted to ask. Seeing that Yin Dao actually believed Shadowless, Li Mingshan was furious. However, he had nothing to say because Shadowless really did have this ability. Although the Godly Knife sect was powerful in the South County, it was hard to say if they left the South County. However, Shadowless was different. The power behind him covered the entire Anwu country. It could be said that it was easy to take Yin Dao out of the South County. Seeing that Li Mingshan did not speak, Shadowless smiled and asked, "Li Mingshan, am I right?" Hearing this, Li Mingshan sneered. "Shadowless, I admit that you are right, but do you really dare to do this?" After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shadowless was stunned. The smile on his face froze. After a while, he sneered. "Li Mingshan, why wouldn't I dare?" Li Mingshan looked at Shadowless and slowly said, "Our Godly Knife sect has been developing in the South County for so many years. Even if you want to take Yin Dao away, do you think it is possible?" Shadowless sneered. "Why not? Do you think your Godly Knife sect dares to stop me?" After hearing Shadowless' words, Li Mingshan solemnly said, "If things really develop to that point, Yin Dao will be a traitor of the Godly Knife sect. The Godly Knife sect will definitely go all out to deal with him. At that time, are you sure you can protect Yin Dao and leave?" After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shadowless also frowned. Although level 25 equipment was precious, was it really worth it to become enemies with the Godly Knife sect? Seeing that Shadowless was hesitating, Li Mingshan continued, "Shadowless, for this level 25 equipment, do you think it is worth it to make our two sects enemies?" Wu Kedi and Shadowless were thinking about Li Mingshan's question. Was it worth it? Seeing that the two of them were hesitating, Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and sternly shouted, "Yin Dao, don't tell me you dare to betray your sect." Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Yin Dao subconsciously answered, "Disciple does not dare." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Mingshan nodded in satisfaction and said with a gentle tone, "Yin Dao, I knew you were a good person. You would never do anything that would betray your sect." Yin Dao suddenly said, "Lord Protector, what kind of elixirs can I exchange for this level 25 equipment?" Li Mingshan was stunned and shook his head. "I don't know. It depends on the sect master." Yin Dao heard this and pondered for a moment before asking, "Lord Protector, this equipment?" Chapter 546. Yin Dao asked, "Lord Protector, if I use this equipment to exchange with the Wu clan, what will happen?" After listening to Yin Dao's words, Li Shan suddenly became furious and shouted, "That is treason and heresy. Going against the sect is an unforgivable crime." Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi suddenly sneered, "Li Shan, if Yin Dao joins our Wu clan, then what you've just said won't happen." Li Shan turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and said coldly, "Wu Kedi, you are dreaming. Yin Dao is a disciple of the Godly Knife sect and will always be a disciple of the Godly Knife sect. If he wants to leave the Godly Knife sect, then he will become an enemy of the Godly Knife sect. The Godly Knife sect will never let him go." Wu Kedi sneered, "Li Shan, who are you trying to scare? Yin Dao is just a low-level disciple of the Godly Knife sect. Even if he leaves the Godly Knife sect, no one will pursue him." Li Shan looked at Wu Kedi and shouted, "Wu Kedi, why don't you give it a try?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi suddenly laughed, "Since you want me to give it a try, then I will give it a try. Let's see if your Godly Knife sect will go to war with our Wu clan for a low-level disciple." At this point, Wu Kedi paused and turned to look at Yin Dao before continuing, "Yin Dao, you don't have to be afraid. As long as you join our Wu clan, we have the responsibility to protect you. We won't let outsiders bully you." Hearing the two quarreling, Yin Dao felt a splitting headache. He could not help but shout, "Stop talking, my head hurts." After saying this, Yin Dao held his head and slowly fell down. He could not help but cough violently. Seeing this, Wu Kedi quickly comforted him, "Yin Dao, don't worry. As long as you join our Wu clan, we will give you the best elixirs to increase your strength. At that time, even without our Wu clan's protection, with your own ability, the Godly Knife sect will not be able to do anything to you." After Li Mingshan heard Wu Kedi's words, he was furious. Just as he was about to reach for the saber, he suddenly found that his hand was held down by someone. He was shocked. He turned his head and found that it was Li Mingshui who held down his hand. Li Mingshui grabbed Li Mingshan's hand and nodded slightly. Then he turned his head and looked at the silver knife on the ground. "Yin Dao, don't listen to Wu Kedi's nonsense. Even if you join the Wu clan, you'll only get one type of elixir. It won't be of much help to you." Speaking up to this point, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, "But if you stay in the Godly Knife sect, you'll get a lot of benefits. Perhaps the elixir you get might not be as good as the elixir the Wu clan gives you, but don't forget, we can introduce you to the Godly Knife sect's sect master's sixth brother. As long as he is willing to accept you as his disciple, other than getting the elixir, you can also become the disciple of the Godly Knife sect's sect master's sixth disciple. I'm afraid the Wu clan will never give you this kind of benefit, so you must think carefully. Don't fall into Wu Kedi's trap." After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Yin Dao, who was coughing non-stop on the ground, struggled to get up. He sat on the ground and raised his head to look at Li Mingshui. "Lord Protector, is what you said true? Even if I used that level 25 equipment to exchange for the elixir, would you still be willing to introduce me to the Godly Knife sect's sect master's sixth disciple?" Li Mingshui nodded, "We will keep our word. We definitely won't lie to you." After saying this, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing, "There are so many people watching here. Even if we lie to you, I'm afraid it won't be easy." After hearing Li Mingshui's confirmation, Yin Dao's face finally revealed a trace of a smile. "Thank you, Lord Protector. If the Godly Knife sect's sect master's sixth disciple is really willing to accept me as a disciple, I definitely won't forget the two Lord Protectors in the future." After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshui nodded his head in satisfaction. However, in his heart, he couldn't help but sneer. What a childish fellow, to actually believe such words. Even if the Godly Knife Sect's sect master's sixth disciple didn't have good eyesight, he definitely wouldn't take a fancy to such a useless fellow. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kedi's heart suddenly moved. Although Yin Dao didn't understand the meaning behind Li Mingshan's words, he, Wu Kedi, wasn't someone who would be easily fooled. Yin Dao had already suffered such heavy injuries. Not only that, no one had treated him until now. He believed that it wouldn't be long before Yin Dao died. Since Yin Dao had already died, then all the promises he made were just empty words. After understanding this point, Wu Kedi suddenly laughed out loud. He turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, "Yin Dao, I can tell you the truth. I, Wu Kedi, have a high position in the Wu family. As long as you agree to join our Wu family, the benefits I will give you will definitely not be less than what the Godly Knife Sect will give you." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao hurriedly turned his head and asked in confusion, "What benefits will your Wu family give me?" Hearing this, Wu Kedi raised his head proudly. "I can introduce you to our family's successor. As long as he agrees to accept you as a disciple, you will naturally become our family's successor's disciple." At that time, speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's tone paused for a moment before continuing. "At that time, Yin Dao, think about it carefully. Once you become our Wu family's successor's disciple, how glorious would that be? Wouldn't it be much better than becoming the Godly Knife Sect's sect master's sixth disciple?" Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was a little tempted. Although he was only a mediocre disciple of the Godly Knife Sect, he had heard of the Wu family's great name. If he could really become a member of the famous Wu family and become the Wu family's successor's disciple, it would definitely be a great thing. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshui secretly cursed him for being shameless. Seeing that Yin Dao was a little tempted, he hurriedly said, "Yin Dao, don't listen to Wu Kedi's nonsense. Let me tell you the truth. Even if you become the Wu family's successor's disciple, you will only be an outer sect disciple. You will definitely not be able to become a core member of the Wu family." Speaking up to here, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing, "Yin Dao, don't forget that the important positions in the Wu family are all held by people with the surname Wu. As an outsider, no matter how hard you work, you will still be an outsider in the end. Even if you become the Wu family's successor's disciple, your status as an outsider will definitely not be of any help. Yin Dao, you must think clearly about the choice you want to make. Yin Dao, if you really want to join the Wu family and become an outsider of the Wu family forever, then I will not persuade you, nor will I urge you to stay." Chapter 547. After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Yin Dao frowned deeply. The tempted expression on his face gradually disappeared. If it wasn't for Li Mingshui's reminder, he would have forgotten about this matter. Although the Wu clan was powerful, they were still a clan. No matter how hard others struggled, the most important positions in the Wu clan would always be held by the Wu clan members. There was no doubt about this. Thinking of this, Yin Dao lost interest in talking to Wu Kedi and lowered his head again. Seeing this, Wu Kedi turned his head and glared fiercely at Li Mingshui. However, he was quickly thinking of a plan. Although Wu Kedi was thinking of a plan, he couldn't think of anything in a short amount of time. Li Mingshui was right. The most important positions in the Wu clan were all held by the Wu clan members. Even if an outsider joined the Wu clan, he would only be given an unimportant position. This was the truth, and Wu Kedi had no way to defend himself. However, if he couldn't defend himself, it meant that the level 25 equipment had flown away. Therefore, he had to think of a way to keep that equipment. Li Mingshui saw that Wu Kedi didn't speak, but his eyes were darting around. He knew that Wu Kedi was thinking of something bad. However, Li Mingshui wasn't worried that Wu Kedi would come up with something bad. This was because he knew that what he said was right. This was Wu Kedi's weakness, and he couldn't resolve it. Li Mingshui was pleased with himself. He sneered and turned his head to look at Wu Kedi. "Wu Kedi, what else do you have to say?" After saying this, Li Mingshui saw that Wu Kedi still didn't reply, so he continued, "Wu Kedi, actually, you don't have to lie to Yin Dao. What I said is the truth. Even if Yin Dao joins the Wu clan and becomes the successor of the Wu clan, so what? As long as he isn't a member of the Wu clan, he will never have a future in the Wu clan. Wu Kedi, am I right? Hearing Li Mingshui's sarcastic words, Wu Kedi suddenly had an idea. He immediately looked up to the sky and laughed. After a long while, Wu Kedi lowered his head and looked at Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui, I really have to thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I really can't think of any other way. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshui sneered, Wu Kedi, don't talk nonsense. This is a dead end. You can't resolve it. Just admit defeat. Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Li Mingshui and said mockingly, admit defeat, Li Mingshui. I won't admit defeat so easily. After saying this, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, as long as you join the Wu clan, I can ask the Wu clan's successor to take you in as a foster son. Wouldn't that make you a member of the Wu clan? As soon as Wu Kedi's voice fell, the surrounding people gasped. Li Mingshui stared at Wu Kedi, dumbfounded. He couldn't understand how this old man could be so shameless. Wu Ketian, who was not far away, also heard Wu Kedi's words. After the initial shock, he immediately felt his face burning. He didn't think that his younger brother would dare to speak so boldly. Not only that, he even said such ridiculous things. Although the two of them were also members of the Wu clan, they were still far from being the Wu clan's successor. Who was the Wu clan's successor? He was an existence that was second only to one person. Would he accept an outsider as his foster son just because you asked? If that was the case, then wouldn't all the outsiders in the Wu clan become the foster sons of the Wu clan's successor? Among everyone present, the only person who wasn't surprised was Wu Kedi. This was because he already had a plan in mind. This was only a temporary measure. Wu Kedi's ultimate goal was to let Yin Dao join the Wu clan and obtain that level 25 equipment. Yin Dao also heard Wu Kedi's words. His heart was in turmoil. If he could become the foster son of the Wu clan's successor, the benefits would definitely be much better than the godly knife sect's sixth disciple taking him in as a disciple. Between a foster son and a disciple, the foster son was naturally one level higher than the disciple. Thinking of this, Yin Dao turned his head to look at Wu Kedi. He wanted to ask about the details, but at this moment, a thunderous roar came from beside him. No. After Li Mingshui shouted this sentence, he took a few deep breaths and calmed down his anger a little. Then, he slowly said, that's right. He then calmed himself down and slowly said, Yin Dao, don't believe Wu Kedi's nonsense. It's impossible for the Wu clan's successor to take you in as his foster son. Wu Kedi is lying to you. Hearing this, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Li Mingshui and asked with a cold smile, Li Mingshui, tell me, how did I lie to Yin Dao? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao hurriedly turned his head to look at Li Mingshui. He wanted to hear if this was true or not. Li Mingshui coldly said, Wu Kedi, do you think that the Wu clan's successor will accept Yin Dao as his foster son even if you talk to him? Speaking of this, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, let me ask you, after you said this, do you believe it yourself? Wu Kedi laughed, why wouldn't I believe it? I grew up with the Wu clan's successor and we're like brothers. If I ask him about this matter, do you think he won't agree to it? Hearing Wu Kedi's explanation, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up. If what Wu Kedi said was true, that he really grew up together with the Wu clan's successor, and that they were as close as brothers, then asking the Wu clan's successor to adopt Yin Dao as his son was a very likely thing. Not far away, Wu Ketian's face turned even redder after hearing Wu Kedi's words. The Wu clan's successor was the direct descendant of the previous clan head, and the two brothers were only direct descendants. As for saying that the two brothers grew up together with the Wu clan's successor, it wasn't a lie, but what was the use of it? The Wu clan's successor was heavily nurtured since he was young. It was true that he grew up with the Wu brothers, but they didn't grow up together. Wu Ketian had never seen the Wu clan's successor since he was young, so how could they be like brothers? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshui was stunned. He looked at Wu Kedi in disbelief and asked doubtfully, Wu Kedi, is what you said true? Could it be that you and the Wu clan's successor are like brothers, and you grew up together? Wu Kedi nodded, of course. Otherwise, why would I say this? Hearing Wu Kedi's explanation, Li Mingshui sighed secretly. If this was true, then it would be really difficult to deal with. Just when Li Mingshui was in a difficult position, he heard Li Mingshan sneer at the side. Wu Kedi, you really dare to talk nonsense. Chapter 548. Li Shan sneered, Wu Kedi, do you think we're that easy to fool? Although we're not from the Wu family, we still know a little about the South region. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. As far as I know, although the Wu family's heir and you both have the same surname, the treatment you receive is very different. Also, you said that you grew up together with the Wu family's heir. When you said this, do you believe it yourself? Haha, speaking of this, Li Shan looked up to the sky and laughed. Looking at the laughing Li Shan, Wu Kedi's old face turned red. He said with some anger, Li Shan, how am I talking nonsense? There is a little difference between us and the Wu family's heir. Is there anything wrong with that? Also, why can't I grow up together with the Wu family's heir? Why wouldn't I believe it? Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Li Shan, don't talk nonsense about things you haven't seen before. Otherwise, you'll be laughed at and lose the face of the Godly Knife sect. Outsiders will say that the Godly Knife sect's people are ignorant and only know how to talk nonsense. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan's smile suddenly stopped. He lowered his head and looked at Wu Kedi fiercely. He said coldly, Wu Kedi, do you really want me to say something you don't want to hear? Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi was shocked. He thought to himself, does this Li Shan really know about the Wu family's matters? Thinking of this, Wu Kedi couldn't help but feel guilty. He forced himself to calm down and said, Li Shan, don't scare me. If you really know something, would you not say it? Li Shan looked at Wu Kedi and sneered, Wu Kedi, I heard that you and the Wu family's heir did grow up together, but not together. Not only that, it seems that the Wu family's heir hates you. Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, I didn't say this. Some people in the Wu family told me this. Remember, it wasn't just one person who said this, but several people. Your relationship with the Wu family's heir isn't good. Wu Kudi, since the two of you don't have a good relationship, how can you persuade the Wu clan's successor to adopt Yin Dao as his son? I'm really curious about this. Can you explain it to me? What's the reason for you to have the courage to let your enemy adopt the person you introduced as his son? After hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi's eyes were about to spit fire, but when he opened his mouth, he couldn't say anything to refute. This was because what Li Shan said was true. He definitely wasn't lying. His relationship with the Wu family's successor was really bad. Wu Kedi was slightly older than the Wu clan's successor. When he was young, he wasn't very sensible. When he was still young and ignorant, he beat up the Wu clan's successor who was younger than him. If it was just a spar between the two of them, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, Wu Kedi had beaten up the successor of the Wu clan so badly that 2 of his teeth had been knocked out. More importantly, those were his front teeth. Because the Wu clan's successor lost his 2 front teeth, he also lost his smile. This was because as long as he smiled, people would see that he was missing 2 teeth. Therefore, from then on, the Wu clan's successor no longer smiled. Even when there was no one around, he wouldn't smile. This was because he felt that smiling was a humiliation to him, a humiliation that he would never forget. Although after he grew up, Wu Kedi really regretted it. He regretted that he had beaten him so heavily. In short, he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. But so what? He had already knocked out 2 teeth from the Wu clan's successor's mouth. Even if he regretted it, this matter was absolutely irreparable. The Wu clan's successor's teeth would never recover. Thinking about the painful past that Wu Kedi had deliberately suppressed, Wu Kedi felt as if his heart was being twisted by a knife. His heart was filled with both regret and hatred. For a moment, he actually couldn't speak. Looking at Wu Kedi's twisted face, Li Shan laughed loudly. He felt very carefree in his heart. Little Wu Kedi, You want to fight with me with just those 2 moves of yours? You must be dreaming. Seeing that Wu Kedi wasn't willing to answer his question, Li Shanshan sneered and said, Wu Kedi, what else do you want to say now? Hearing this, Wu Kedi suddenly raised his head and sneered, Li Mingshan, don't talk nonsense. What you said is all nonsense. There is no basis for any facts. Since it's just your imagination. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's tone paused. He turned his head and looked at Yin Dao before continuing, Yin Dao, don't believe Li Shanshan's words. Is he lying to you? Yin Dao, have you forgotten my surname? My surname is Wu. The Wu clan's successor is also surnamed Wu. We are all family. Don't tell me that he won't help me with this matter. Yin Dao, believe me, this is impossible. The Wu clan's successor is also surnamed Wu. He will definitely give me face. Before Wu Kedi's voice faded away, Li Mingshan sneered and said, Wu Kedi, do you still have the face to quibble? Your relationship with the successor of the Wu family is very bad. If you want to make peace, I'm afraid it's impossible. Wu Kedi sneered and said, Li Shanshan, you don't need to care about this matter. As long as I can do this matter, it will naturally fulfill my promise to brother Yin Dao. As for what I will do, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. After listening to Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan shook his head and sneered, Yin Dao is a disciple of our godly knife sect. You keep talking nonsense here and want our disciples to betray our sect. Tell me, if Yin Dao really joins the Wu clan, does this count as betraying the sect? If I take care of this matter, does this count as me meddling in other people's business? Wu Kedi shook his head, if Yin Dao leaves your godly knife sect first and then joins our Wu clan, then tell me, does this count as betraying the godly knife sect? Tell me again, is this not meddling in other people's business? After listening to Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan angrily shouted, Wu Kedi, don't talk nonsense. Why would Yin Dao leave the godly knife sect? Does he have to join your Wu clan to have a real future? Hearing this, Wu Kedi laughed, Li Shanshan, you are right. If Yin Dao joins our Wu clan, he will definitely have a better future than staying in the godly knife sect. Chapter 549. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan did not continue to argue with him. Instead, he turned his head to look at Yin Dao and asked with a smile, Yin Dao, don't tell me you really want to leave the godly knife sect. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao's face showed a trace of hesitation as he stammered, Seeing Yin Dao's expression, Li Shanshan immediately knew that Wu Kedi's words had moved Yin Dao's heart. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan did not wait for Yin Dao to finish speaking and waved his hand to interrupt him. Yin Dao, what Wu Kedi just said is nonsense. His relationship with the Wu family's successor is not good. Even if he wants to introduce you to the Wu family's successor, I'm afraid that the Wu family's successor will not meet him. Yin Dao, think about it. Under these circumstances, how could Wu Kedi's words be true? Yin Dao turned to look at Wu Kedi. Just as he was about to ask, Wu Kedi spoke first, Yin Dao, don't listen to Li Shanshan's nonsense. Since I promised you this matter, I will definitely do it for you. Believe me, I will not be wrong. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao began to hesitate again. Wu Kedi's offer was too good. If he could become the Wu family's successor's adopted son, even if he could not become the Wu family's patriarch, he would definitely become an important person in the Wu family. Moreover, Wu Kedi also promised to give him an elixir to increase his strength with the level 25 equipment. With such good conditions, how could Yin Dao not be tempted? Li Shanshan saw that Yin Dao was stubborn and only wanted to become the Wu family's successor's adopted son, so he could not help but feel anxious. Yin Dao, do you think that there are no benefits to becoming the godly knife sect's 6th disciple? After saying this, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, let me tell you, the godly knife sect's 6th disciple has a daughter. She is about the same age as you. If you are lucky, you can become the godly knife sect's 6th disciple's son-in-law. Isn't this a great thing? As soon as Li Shanshan finished speaking, the surrounding people once again gasped. Everyone was secretly cursing Li Shan for being too shameless. In order to win over Yin Dao, he didn't even say such shameless words. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao's chaotic mind suddenly lit up. He had never seen the daughter of the sixth disciple of the godly knife sect, but he had heard of her. It was said that she was as beautiful as a flower, and her martial arts were high. The sixth disciple of the godly knife sect spoiled her to the heavens. If he could really, thinking of this, even Yin Dao didn't dare to think any further. It was too unbelievable. Yin Dao had already gone crazy. There was no longer any normal thought in his mind. It was just his wishful thinking. If this could really happen, after Wu Kedi heard Li Shanshan's words, he couldn't wait to tear Li Shanshan's mouth apart. How could he say such words? He was simply shameless to the extreme. Wu Kedi was speechless. He had just said something shameless, but he never thought that Li Bingshan would be even more shameless than him, to actually say something like that. However, Wu Kedi understood that Yin Dao wouldn't be able to get anything in the end because his injuries were too serious. No matter what conditions were given to him, he wouldn't be able to enjoy them. Therefore, the most important thing now was how to win over Yin Dao. As for the conditions, he could just say whatever he wanted. After all, they couldn't be fulfilled. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi turned his head and glanced at Li Shanshan. He gave him a thumbs up and said in a low voice, "Li Shanshan, you win. However, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused. He turned his head and looked at Yin Dao before continuing, "Yin Dao, if you want to marry a wife, it's very simple. Our Wu family has a ready-made one. Not only is she beautiful, but her martial arts are also outstanding. More importantly, her surname is Wu. She's a direct descendant of our Wu family. As long as you agree, I'll immediately get it done for you. Yin Dao, what do you think?" After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and asked in surprise, Really? Wu Kedi nodded and said with a smile, "Yin Dao, why would I lie to you?" Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "Yin Dao, you're an ambitious young man. Although your martial arts talent is a bit lacking, with the nourishment of the elixir, as long as you practice hard, you'll definitely have a bright future. Yin Dao, believe me. What I said is true. As long as you agree, I'll immediately realize your dream for you." As soon as Wu Kedi finished speaking, before Yin Dao could say anything, Li Shanshan, whose face had become extremely ugly, couldn't wait to roar. "Wu Kedi, you're too shameless. How could you say such words? You're simply too..." In the end, Li Shanshan didn't even say that word himself. Hearing Li Shanshan's roar, Wu Kedi didn't care at all. He lightly said, "Li Shanshan, don't you think that Yin Dao is a good young man? Although your godly knife sect doesn't value him, our Wu family will definitely value talents." Li Shanshan was so angry that he simply flew into a rage. He pointed his finger at Wu Kedi and sternly shouted, "Wu Kedi, who said that our godly knife sect doesn't value Yin Dao?" Wu Kedi sneered, "Li Shanshan, don't lie. If your godly knife sect really values Yin Dao, then his martial arts wouldn't be so bad." Speaking of this, Wu Kedi's tone paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Shanshan, not to mention others, just our Wu family alone provides your godly knife sect with many elixirs that can increase one's strength every year. Since you value Yin Dao, then why don't you give him some elixirs that can increase his strength?" After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan suddenly froze. For a moment, he couldn't refute. Wu Kedi was right. The godly knife sect did consume a lot of elixirs every year. These elixirs were naturally used on those talented disciples. This was a fact that Li Shanshan couldn't refute. What made Li Shanshan even more speechless was that the godly knife sect consumed so many elixirs every year, but none of them were used on Yin Dao. Why was that? Everyone knew that in the godly knife sect, there were simply too many disciples like Yin Dao. Compared to the large number of disciples, those elixirs were actually far from enough. They could only focus on cultivating more talented disciples. As for Yin Dao's martial arts talent, naturally, there was no need to cultivate him. Because in everyone's opinion, doing so would just be wasting elixirs in vain. It wouldn't have much effect. If these elixirs could be used on those talented disciples. Chapter 550. Li Shanshan was very clear that if those precious elixirs were given to those extremely talented disciples, they would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. It was because of this that disciples like Yin Dao, who were not talented enough, would not be able to obtain any elixirs. Wu Kedi saw that Li Shanshan did not answer and sneered again. Li Shanshan, if you don't speak, then it means that I am right. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused and turned to look at Yin Dao before continuing. Yin Dao, you just saw that even if you stay in the Godly Knife sect, you will not be able to obtain any elixirs. Maybe even the matter of the Godly Knife sect's sixth disciple is fake. If that is the case, then why do you still want to stay in the Godly Knife sect? Yin Dao, as long as you join the Wu clan, you will be able to obtain everything you want. Your dream will not be far from you. Think about it, Yin Dao, this is a wonderful thing. As long as you say the word, I will do everything for you. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao turned to look at Li Shanshan and asked with some doubt, Lord Protector, is what he said true? Hearing this, Li Shanshan forced a smile and shook his head. Yin Dao, how could it be true? Don't listen to his nonsense. Do you think that once you join the Wu clan, everything will be smooth sailing? After asking this question, Li Shanshan paused for a moment. He didn't wait for Yin Dao's reply and continued, Yin Dao, let me tell you, that is impossible. Do you think that the Wu clan has an endless supply of elixirs? That's impossible. Most of the Wu clan's elixirs have been sold. They used the money from these elixirs to maintain the Wu clan's operations. Only a small portion is left in the Wu clan. It can be said that the Wu clan's control over elixirs is stricter than any other sect because they have very little elixirs in storage. In the Wu clan, other than disciples with the surname Wu, it is basically impossible for outsiders to obtain any elixirs. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. In the Wu clan, which disciple with the surname Wu has obtained any elixirs? If he can say it, then I lose. If he can't, then he is lying. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kudiai's expression couldn't help but change. When he saw Yin Dao looking over, he hurriedly said with a smile, Yin Dao, don't listen to Li Shanshan's nonsense. If what he said is true, then why are there so many people joining our Wu family? You can go to the South region and ask around. How many disciples do our Wu family have with different surnames? Then everything will be clear. Hearing that both of them had their own reasons, Yin Dao was confused. He couldn't tell who was right and who was wrong. Seeing that Yin Dao was hesitating, Li Shanshan hurriedly smiled and said, Yin Dao, you are a disciple of the Godly Knife sect and have been in the Godly Knife sect for many years. Don't you know the situation of the Godly Knife sect? I, Li Shanshan, always keep my word. I will never lie to you. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kudai naturally didn't want to be outdone. He loudly said, Yin Dao, is our Wu family's reputation a lie? If you ask around, you will know that our Wu family has always been fair. As long as a disciple has talent, we will do our best to train them. Speaking up to here, Wu Kudai paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, I believe that even without my introduction, if you come to the Wu family, our Wu family will not treat you badly. After hearing Wu Kudai's words, Li Shanshan suddenly laughed. He took a step forward and whispered to Yin Dao, if you can become the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect master, you will learn a lot of high-level martial arts. You also know how strong our Godly Knife sect's martial arts are. In the South region, it can be said that there is no opponent. If you learn those martial arts, you will definitely stand out. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kudai suddenly sneered, Yin Dao, do you think that our Wu family's martial arts are weak? Speaking up to here, Wu Kudai paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, let me ask you, between me and Li Shanshan, who is stronger and who is weaker? Hearing Wu Kudai's question, Yin Dao couldn't help but frown. He looked at Wu Kudai and then looked at Li Shanshan. After hesitating for a moment, he shook his head, I don't know. Hearing this, Wu Kudai sneered, Yin Dao, you don't have to be afraid of Li Shanshan. If it is just martial arts, he is definitely not my opponent. From this, it can be seen that the Godly Knife sect's martial arts are not stronger than the Wu family's. So, Yin Dao, quickly join our Wu family. If you agree, everything will be better and success will be closer to you. Just as Wu Kudai finished speaking, Li Shanshan's sharp sneer came from the side. Wu Kudi, you really know how to talk. You think that my martial arts are not as good as yours? Wu Kudi calmly nodded. Li Shanshan, in order to let Yin Dao know the truth, I can only tell him the truth. Please don't be offended. Seeing Wu Kudi's calm appearance, Li Shanshan was so angry that even his hands were trembling. Li Shanshan slowly reached out his hand to hold the hilt of his sword and coldly shouted, Wu Kudi, are you serious? Wu Kudi turned his head to look at Li Shanshan and sighed, Li Shanshan, it's better for Yin Dao to know the truth. This way, it will be better for him. Li Shanshan suddenly sneered, Wu Kudi, your martial arts are higher than mine. Do you think that is the truth? Wu Kudi looked at Li Shanshan with some surprise. Li Shanshan, do you think that what I said is wrong? Hearing this, Li Shanshan shook his head, I don't have any opinion about what you said. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan's tone paused. He suddenly sneered again and held the hilt of his sword even tighter, then continued, Wu Kudi, I don't have any opinion. But have you asked my sword? It seems that my sword has an opinion. He doesn't agree with what you said. Wu Kudi turned his head to look at Li Shanshan's hand holding the sword and lightly said, Li Shanshan, the sword is in your hand. Naturally, you have the final say. Li Shanshan nodded, okay, I remember what you said. Then let's have a try. Let's see whose martial arts are worse than mine. Hearing this, Wu Kudi secretly became vigilant. At the same time, his legs slowly separated, ready to deal with Li Shanshan's attack at any time. Although Wu Kudi's movements were subtle, Li Shanshan was the protector of the godly knife sect. Even if Wu Kudi's movements were subtle, he could still see it clearly. Seeing that Wu Kudi was ready, Li Shanshan sneered and said, Wu Kudi, are you ready? Chapter 551. Wu Kedi nodded and said loudly, Li Shanshan, I advise you not to do this. You will embarrass yourself in front of Yin Dao. Li Shanshan sneered, don't be afraid. My martial arts are not as good as yours. Even if I lose, it doesn't matter. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, but you, Wu Kedi, if you lose, then what you just said will be a slap to your own face. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi was shocked. When he said those words, he just wanted Yin Dao to believe that he was right to join the Wu family. But after hearing Li Shanshan's words, he felt that it was right. He already said that Li Shanshan was not his opponent. Even if Li Shanshan lost, it would not affect him much. But if he lost, then it would be terrible. Seeing Wu Kedi's hesitation, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart and said loudly, Wu Kedi, you are afraid. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, if you are afraid, then please take back what you just said. There is no need for us to compete. Hearing this, Wu Kedi was stunned for a moment before shaking his head, Li Shanshan, do you think I am afraid of you? Let me tell you the truth. I am afraid that you will lose face in front of Yin Dao, so I am giving you this chance. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, but since you want to compete, then don't blame me for not giving you face. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan said mockingly, Wu Kedi, I beg you. Please don't give me face. I really can't accept it. Hearing this, Wu Kedi's old face turned red. He said angrily, Li Shanshan, if you want to compete, then hurry up and stop talking nonsense. Hearing Wu Kedi's clamor, Li Shanshan slowly nodded. His hand holding the sword slowly began to pull it out. Looking at Li Shanshan's movements, Wu Kedi also became somewhat nervous. Although he didn't fight with Li Shanshan, he saw everything clearly when Li Shanshan was fighting with fire spirit. Li Shanshan's martial arts were definitely not weak, and could even be said to be very strong. Although Wu Kedi was very confident in his martial arts, he didn't think that he could defeat Li Mingshan. Therefore, he had to be careful when dealing with Li Mingshan. Li Shanshan slowly pulled out the saber in his hand. A silver light flashed in front of his eyes. Li Shanshan looked at the saber in his hand and slightly flicked it in front of him. Wu Kudi felt a silver light flash in front of his eyes and a chill rushed towards him. When Wu Kedi saw the power of Li Mingshan's saber, he didn't dare to be careless. He clenched his fists even tighter and opened his eyes wide, staring at Li Mingshan's every move. Looking at Wu Kedi's cautious appearance, Li Shan couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He didn't believe that Wu Kedi could block his blade. When Li Shan slowly raised the saber in his hand, Shadowless suddenly rushed to Li Shan's side and said in a low voice, "Li Shan, are you crazy? Do you really want to fight with Wu Kedi?" Li Shan turned his head to look at Shadowless and said with a smile, "Shadowless, you heard what Wu Kedi said just now. He dared to say that my martial arts are not as good as his. I'm asking if you can tolerate this kind of thing." Hearing Li Shan's question, Shadowless froze for a moment and then shook his head. "No, if it were me, I would have already rushed up and cut him into 8 pieces. Li Shan smiled coldly. "Then why did you stop me?" Shadowless said in a low voice, "Li Shan, the main goal now is Silver Saber. No matter how good Wu Kedi's words sound, as long as Silver Saber doesn't believe it, what use is Wu Kedi's word?" Hearing Shadowless' words, Li Shan's heart suddenly moved and he finally reacted. Right, everything he and Wu Kedi did was to make Silver Saber believe that he was the strongest. As long as Silver Saber didn't believe it, then what was the point of saying that? Thinking of this, Li Shan suddenly shifted his gaze from Wu Kedi to Silver Saber. "Silver Saber, do you believe what Wu Kedi said just now? Do you believe that my martial arts are not as good as Wu Kedi's?" Hearing this, Silver Saber shook his head. "I don't know." Hearing Silver Saber's answer, Li Shan nodded. "Silver Saber, it's right that you don't know. This proves that you are not lying because you have never seen Wu Kedi and me fight, so you don't know who is stronger between the two of us." Speaking of this, Li Shan paused for a moment and then continued, "Silver Saber, I am very pleased with your answer. As the protector of the Godly Saber Sect, I naturally hope that the disciples of the Godly Saber Sect can be like you, an honest and reliable person. Silver Saber, I hope that you can lead the disciples of the Godly Saber Sect to not lie in the future." After saying this, Li Shan looked at Silver Saber with bright eyes and sincerely asked, "Silver Saber, can you agree to my request?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Silver Saber was shocked. Wu Kedi was a little annoyed. He had been preparing for a long time and had already thought of a way to deal with Li Shan. However, he never expected that Li Shan would suddenly change his mind and use this method. However, although Li Shan's idea was simple, it seemed to be quite effective against a madman like Silver Saber. Seeing that Silver Saber was about to nod, Wu Kedi suddenly shouted, "Li Shan, the reason why Silver Saber said that he doesn't know who is stronger is because he doesn't want to lose face as the protector of the Godly Saber Sect. Therefore, he had no choice but to say that." After saying this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "The funny thing is that you, a dignified member of the Godly Saber Sect, actually believed it. This is really too funny." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan's face once again darkened, but in the blink of an eye, it turned into a smile again. "Silver Saber, you also saw that a useless guy like Wu Kedi is highly valued by the Wu clan. You can imagine how chaotic it is." After saying this, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "Silver Saber, listen to me. You must not go to the Wu clan. If you really go, then your future will be ruined." Just as Li Shan's voice fell, Wu Kedi, who was standing next to him, shouted angrily, "Li Shan, don't talk nonsense. What's wrong with a person like me? Can't a person like me be highly valued?" At this point, Wu Kedi's tone paused, and he suddenly let out a sneer before continuing, "But you, Li Shan, your martial arts are not as good as mine, but you actually became the protector of the Godly Knife Sect." Chapter 552. Shadowless hurriedly stepped in between the two and said loudly, "Everyone, if you have a problem, you can solve it slowly. Don't fight and hurt the harmony." Li Mingshan pointed at Wu Kedi and said angrily, "Wu Kedi is too much." Wu Kedi sneered, "Li Mingshan, you're not any better." Shadowless hurriedly said, "If you have any conditions, you can stand here and say it, but don't get angry." Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing, "This matter has dragged on for too long. I hope that the two of you can quickly solve this problem so that we can leave this place as soon as possible. If anything happens after a long time, everything we've discussed will be useless." Li Mingshan pondered for a moment and nodded, Okay, I promise you. As long as Wu Kedi doesn't say anything annoying, I'll let him go for now. Hearing this, Wu Kedi looked up to the sky and laughed. Li Mingshan, do you think that I will be grateful to you if you let me go temporarily? Wu Kedi paused and glared at Li Mingshan before continuing. If it wasn't for the urgency of this matter, I wouldn't let you go either. Li Mingshan sneered. Wu Kedi, do you think I'm afraid of you? Wu Kedi said angrily. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Hearing that the two were still arguing, Shadowless suddenly sneered and said, since you two only want to fight, then I won't stop you. Hurry up and fight. I'll go talk to Yin Dao now. The two quickly calmed down and glared at each other. Then they turned their heads and stopped talking. Shadowless turned to Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, you heard them. If you're satisfied with any of their conditions, just say it. Hearing Shadowless words, Yin Dao opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He looked at the two people in front of him and hesitated again. Shadowless turned to look at Li Shanshan and said with a smile, Li Shanshan, repeat your conditions so that Yin Dao can hear you clearly. Li Mingshan nodded and looked at Yin Dao. He said loudly, Yin Dao, if you stay, not only can your level 25 equipment be exchanged for an elixir, I can also introduce you to the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect and ask him to take you as his disciple. You should be satisfied with these conditions. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao frowned, but didn't say anything. He seemed to remember that Wu Kedi's conditions were better. Li Mingshan was annoyed that Yin Dao didn't answer him. However, Shadowless was in front of him. Even if he wanted to rush over and question Yin Dao, he couldn't. He could only grit his teeth. Shadowless sneered in his heart. He turned to Wu Kedi and asked with a smile, Wu Kedi, tell us your conditions too. Let Silver Knife compare and see which one offers better conditions so he can make a choice as soon as possible. Wu Kedi coughed and said slowly, if Yin Dao joins the Wu clan, I will introduce him to the successor of the Wu clan and ask him to take Yin Dao as his disciple. Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, not only that, I can also exchange his level 25 equipment for an even higher level elixir to increase Yin Dao's strength. Shadowless turned to Yin Dao and asked with a smile, Yin Dao, both of them have their conditions. Yin Dao, both of them have stated their conditions. Whose conditions are you more satisfied with? Yin Dao thought for a moment and shook his head, I'm not satisfied with anyone. Shadowless didn't care about Yin Dao's words. After all, he wasn't the one who gave the conditions. Whatever conditions Yin Dao wanted had nothing to do with him. Shadowless turned to Li Mingshan and said with a smile, Li Mingshan, Yin Dao isn't satisfied with your conditions. Do you have any other conditions? Hearing Shadowless' words, Li Shanshan was about to say something, but he suddenly thought of something and sneered. He sneered and said, Yin Dao is a disciple of the Godly Knife faction. Why would I give him so many conditions? Shadowless was stunned when he heard Li Mingshan's answer. However, he quickly reacted and turned to Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi, Yin Dao isn't satisfied with your conditions. Do you have any better conditions? Yin Dao was a disciple of the Godly Knife faction. As long as he wasn't satisfied with either of the factions, it meant that Yin Dao was still a disciple of the Godly Knife faction. Whatever he had, he would still prioritize the Godly Knife faction. It was because of this that Li Mingshan wasn't in a hurry to give out conditions. If Li Mingshan could see this point, Wu Kedi could naturally see this point as well. Therefore, he could only add some better conditions to attract Yin Dao to join the Wu clan. Wu Kedi thought for a moment before turning to Yin Dao and saying softly, Yin Dao, Li Mingshan was right. The Wu clan does give preferential treatment to people with the surname Wu. As an outsider, you don't have much of a future in the Wu clan. Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, if you want to have a future in the Wu clan, there is only one way. You can change your surname and become a member of the Wu clan. This way, you will naturally be valued by the Wu clan. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan couldn't help but sneer and say, Wu Kedi, you really know how to lie. Do you think you can become a member of the Wu clan as long as you change your surname? Speaking up to hear, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing with a sneer, Wu Kedi, do you believe your own words? If it's that simple, then tell me, how many people in the Wu clan have changed their surnames? How many people in the Wu clan have changed their surnames? As long as you can name one person, then I, Li Shan, will be convinced by you. Hearing this, Li Shan sneered. After hearing Li Mingshan's question, Wu Kedi's face changed and said angrily, Li Mingshan, do you still want to keep your word? We have already agreed that we will each give our own conditions and no one can interfere with each other. What right do you have to question me? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan shook his head and said indifferently, Wu Kedi, no matter what, Yin Dao is a disciple of the godly knife sect. I won't let him be deceived by you. Therefore, I will expose you and let Yin Dao see the truth. He won't believe your nonsense. Wu Kedi suddenly sneered, Li Mingshan, what right do you have to say that I am talking nonsense? As long as Yin Dao changes his surname to Wu, I will naturally have a way to make him a member of the Wu clan. What right do you have to say that I am talking nonsense? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and said with a sneer, Wu Kedi, don't tell me that your method is to make Yin Dao someone's adopted son? Chapter 553. After hearing Li Mingshan's question, Wu Kedi became angry. He pointed at Li Mingshan and said angrily, Li Mingshan, so what? As long as I have a way to make Yin Dao a member of the Wu family, why do you care what method I use? Li Mingshan shook his head, although I don't want to care about your business, your method is a lie. How can I allow you to cheat Yin Dao like this? After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kedi ignored him and turned to look at Yin Dao. He smiled and said, Yin Dao, as long as you promise me this, I will definitely have a way to make you a member of the Wu family. Yin Dao, please believe me, I will definitely do it for you. Before Yin Dao could reply, Li Mingshan sneered and said, Wu Kedi, tell us a feasible method. Otherwise, no one will believe you. Yin Dao, tell me, am I right? If Wu Kedi can't come up with a solution, then he must be lying to you. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kedi roared, Li Mingshan, why do you care what method I use? Anyway, I have a method. Li Mingshan didn't back down. He stared at Wu Kedi, I don't believe you have a method. Wu Kedi shook his head, I don't care if you believe me or not. As long as Yin Dao believes me, I will be satisfied. After hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Li Mingshan suddenly looked up and laughed. After a while, he suddenly lowered his head and looked at Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi, are you dreaming? Do you really think Yin Dao can't see through your lies? After saying this, Li Mingshan paused. He turned to look at Yin Dao and continued, Yin Dao, tell me, do you believe Wu Kedi's lies? After hearing Li Mingshan's question, Yin Dao frowned and thought for a moment. He then slowly shook his head and said, I don't believe it. After hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Mingshan suddenly felt good. He turned to look at Wu Kedi and laughed. Wu Kedi, what do you think? Yin Dao, I've already seen through your trick. If you can't come up with a feasible solution, please take it back. Don't mention it again, lest you embarrass yourself here. Hearing this, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and asked word by word, Yin Dao, do you really not believe that I can do this? Yin Dao shook his head. I don't believe it. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Wu Kedi took a deep breath and slowly said, Yin Dao, that old man Li Shan asked me to explain to him, but I will never explain to him. But you're different. You're the young man I think highly of. As long as you want to know, I'll tell you. At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, the method I'm talking about is the same as before. As long as you become someone's adopted son and change your surname, you will naturally become a member of the Wu clan. Piak, piak. As soon as Wu Kedi finished speaking, there was a round of applause from the side. Then, Li Mingshan's words were heard. Wu Kedi, I really admire you. Are you going to say that becoming the adopted son of the Wu clan's successor will be the most helpful to him? After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kedi didn't get angry. He didn't even look at Li Mingshan. He was still looking at Yin Dao. After Li Mingshan finished speaking, Wu Kedi slowly said, Yin Dao, if you just want to be an ordinary person, then be the adopted son of an ordinary person. If you want to be a member of the upper class, then be the adopted son of a member of the upper class. At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, regarding this matter, I won't force you. Because everyone's choice is different. Some people like to live a peaceful life, some people like to live a glorious life. In short, everyone's thoughts are different, so everyone's choice will be different. Yin Dao, I respect your thoughts, but it's up to you to choose. Yin Dao, tell me what you want to choose. I will support you and help you achieve your wish. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was stunned. He never thought that such a vulgar matter would be described by Wu Kedi in such a lofty manner. Really, after all, wasn't it just being the adopted son of someone else? Li Mingshan was a bit disdainful, but he couldn't refute it. He stood there blankly, staring at Yin Dao, waiting to hear his choice. Yin Dao was also stunned by Wu Kedi's words. He frowned deeply and his eyes kept flashing. He was hesitating about what choice to make. Wu Kedi was right. If he wanted to be an ordinary person, then be the adopted son of an ordinary person. If he wanted to be a member of the upper class, then be the adopted son of a member of the upper class. Seeing that no one spoke, Wu Kedi smiled and nodded. Yin Dao, don't worry. No matter what you choose, I will support you. Yin Dao thought for a long time, then suddenly raised his head and looked at Wu Kedi. He said loudly, I want to be the adopted son of a member of the upper class. Can you do it for me? Hearing this, Wu Kedi nodded with satisfaction and said confidently, Yin Dao, don't worry. As long as you have this thought, I will do my best to help you achieve it. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan couldn't hold it in anymore. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he knew that if he held it in any longer, then the level 25 equipment would fly to the Wu family with Yin Dao. If it was any other disciple, a normal disciple, Li Mingshan wouldn't be worried. After all, it wasn't easy for someone from a sect to join another sect. If this matter was to be settled peacefully, then the two sects' upper echelons needed to contact each other and discuss it. Only then could it be settled peacefully. If he wanted to leave a sect and join another sect in private, if he didn't explain it well, it would be considered a betrayal of the sect and he would be severely punished. As long as it was a normal person, they wouldn't choose to do this. However, was Yin Dao a normal disciple? No, Yin Dao had already gone crazy. In fact, he was quite crazy. Besides the level 25 equipment, there was nothing else in his mind. For Yin Dao, things like sects could be ignored a long time ago. After Li Mingshan's anger subsided, he took a deep breath and said slowly, Yin Dao, you can't leave the Godly Blade sect. Even if you want to leave, you have to wait until you go back and apply for this matter. Then you can leave after the upper echelons approve this matter. Otherwise, you will be considered a betrayal of the Godly Blade sect. You will be disgraced by everyone in the Godly Blade sect and will be hunted down. Chapter 554. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi sneered, Li Shanshan, do you think your threat will work? Speaking up to hear, Wu Kedi paused. He turned his head to look at Yin Dao and continued, Yin Dao, don't be afraid. As long as you agree to join the Wu family, we will protect you. Hearing this, Li Shanshan was furious. He was about to reach for his blade when he suddenly had an idea. Yin Dao, don't you want to be outstanding? That's easy. As long as you can become the 6th disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's leader, with the help of us brothers, your future will be limitless. Why would you want to join the Wu family? Speaking up to hear, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, the Wu family is a strange place for you. Even if you go, you might not be able to get any benefits. Rather than that, you might as well stay in the Godly Knife Sect. That way, you will have a better chance. Hearing this, Wu Kedi sneered, Yin Dao, don't listen to his nonsense. Although the Wu family is a strange place for you, don't forget that as long as you join the Wu family and change your surname to Wu, you will definitely have a bright future. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. When has the Wu family ever mistreated the disciples of the Wu family? Even if your talent is not good, I can guarantee that as long as you change your surname to Wu, you will definitely be put in an important position in the Wu family. Speaking up to hear, Wu Kedi paused for a moment. He gave Yin Dao a mysterious smile before continuing. Yin Dao, if you are lucky, maybe you can even become the successor of the Wu family. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan sneered, Wu Kudi, stop dreaming. Isn't your surname Wu? Why didn't you become the successor of the Wu family? Don't talk nonsense here. No one will believe your words. Hearing this, Wu Kudi calmly said, although my surname is Wu, my luck is not good, so I can't become the successor of the Wu family. But brother Yin Dao is different. Maybe his luck is better than mine and he can become the successor of the Wu family. Li Mingshan sneered and shook his head. Wu Kedi, stop dreaming. At this point, Li Shan paused. He turned his head to look at Yin Dao before continuing. Wu Kedi, you must be dreaming. If it was so easy to be the successor of the Wu clan, then wouldn't everyone be the successor of the Wu clan? Yin Dao, it's better for you to stay. Staying in the godly knife sect to develop your future is actually the best choice for you. Wu Kedi clenched his teeth and was about to speak when Shadowless walked over. Wu Kedi, what good conditions do you have? Hurry up and say it. If you don't, Li Mingshan will win. Wu Kedi snorted. Wooing, don't worry. Li Mingshan can't beat me. He will never beat me. At this point, Wu Kedi turned his head and looked at Yin Dao. He lowered his voice and said, Brother Yin Dao, do you still remember what I told you earlier? Yin Dao shook his head. I don't remember. Wu Kedi saw this and said in an even lower voice, Brother Yin Dao, the successor of the Wu clan has a daughter. She is about the same age as you. If you perform well, you might become the son-in-law of the successor of the Wu clan. At that time, think about how much benefit it will bring to you. Yin Dao, do you understand what I mean? Although Wu Kedi's voice was low, Li Mingshan had been listening attentively, so he could still hear him clearly. Hearing this news, Li Mingshan was a bit anxious. He didn't think that the method he used earlier would be used by Wu Kedi. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan didn't dare to be negligent. He smiled and said, Yin Dao, don't be fooled by him. If there is such a good thing, do you think I can wait for you? Wu Kedi turned his head and looked at Li Mingshan. He said coldly, why not? Do you think that brother Yin Dao is that bad? Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused. He turned his head and looked at Yin Dao again. He continued, Brother Yin Dao, I have confidence in you. With your ability, I believe that this matter will definitely succeed. Hearing this, Li Mingshan sneered in his heart. He wasn't an idiot like Yin Dao. This kind of ridiculous thing was impossible. How could the daughter of the Wu clan's successor marry an idiot like Yin Dao? Unless this woman looked like a pig. Not only that, but her mind was also like a pig. Only then would it be possible. Just when Li Mingshan didn't care, he suddenly heard Yin Dao speak. Wu Kedi, is what you said true? Do I really have a chance? Hearing this, Li Mingshan almost choked on his own saliva. Cough cough. Li Mingshan coughed a few times to suppress the uncomfortable feeling of being choked. Wu Kedi said, Brother Yin Dao, don't worry. As long as I help you, everything is possible. Hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Yin Dao was pleasantly surprised. He trembled and asked again, Wu Kedi, are you really willing to help me? Wu Kedi smiled faintly, Brother Yin Dao, why wouldn't I? You are a young man that I have high hopes for. Why wouldn't I help you? I only hope that, speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused for a while before continuing, I only hope that in the future, when Brother Yin Dao becomes rich, you will find a way to help us brothers. Then we won't be in vain for helping you. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was overjoyed. He quickly said, Wu Kedi, don't worry. If I really become rich, I will definitely not forget you. I will definitely repay you. Cough cough. As soon as Yin Dao finished speaking, Li Shan coughed lightly and said, don't worry. Yin Dao, do you remember the girl who got 8th place in last year's martial arts competition? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao's eyes lit up. He quickly nodded and asked, are you talking about junior sister Li Qian? Li Mingshan nodded, that's right. I'm talking about her. Speaking of this, Li Mingshan paused for a while before continuing, Yin Dao, do you know Li Qian's surname? Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Yin Dao was stunned at first, then asked tentatively, isn't Li Qian's surname Li? Hearing this, Li Mingshan nodded, that's right. Li Qian's surname is Li. Speaking of this, Li Mingshan paused for a while before continuing, Yin Dao, do you know my surname? Yin Dao was stunned again. After thinking carefully, he said doubtfully, "Since you are called Li Mingshan, of course your surname is Li." Li Mingshan nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "Do you know why both of us have the surname Li?" Chapter 555. Hearing Li Shan's nonsensical questions, everyone present almost vomited. They all squinted at this old guy, wanting to see what he was planning. Hearing Li Shan's questions, Yin Dao was even angrier. "Do you think I'm a fool?" Thinking of this, Yin Dao said with some displeasure, "How would I know?" Li Shan smiled, "Yin Dao, it doesn't matter. If you don't know, I can tell you." Speaking of this, Li Shan's tone paused. He turned his head and looked at Wu Kedi proudly, then continued. "That's because Li Qian is a distant niece of mine." Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kedi was suddenly shocked. He looked at Li Shan in disbelief. His mouth was wide open, but he couldn't say a word. Although Wu Kedi couldn't speak, he kept shouting in his heart. "Li Shan, you're really a shameless old man. In order to win over Yin Dao, you actually used such a despicable method. You even used your own niece to do it." Yin Dao was also stunned. Li Qian's appearance immediately appeared in his mind. During the competition of the younger generation, Li Qian won the 8th place with good results. Although Li Qian was ranked 8th, her limelight overshadowed the 1st place. The main reason for this was that Li Qian was beautiful. At that time, when Li Qian appeared, she immediately suppressed all the young disciples of the Godly Knife sect. Li Qian's opponent was also flustered. Of course, it wasn't because his martial arts were bad, but because he was stunned by Li Qian's beauty. He couldn't even use half of his martial arts before he was kicked off the stage by Li Qian. Thinking of Li Qian's peerless beauty, Yin Dao couldn't help swallowing his saliva. He turned his head to look at Li Shan and asked in a trembling voice, "Lord Protector, what do you mean by that?" "Do you mean?" Seeing Yin Dao swallowing his saliva, Li Shan only felt disgusted, but he still had a smile on his face. Hearing Yin Dao's question, he slowly nodded. "Yin Dao, I see that you are a promising talent. That's why I'm talking to you. I hope that you can seize this opportunity. Don't waste my good intentions." After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao felt a wave of heat rising from the bottom of his heart, instantly rushing into his mind, making him fall into a state of confusion. Thinking that he really had a chance to be together with that beautiful woman, Silver Knife couldn't help but become a little infatuated. Unknowingly, saliva started to drip from the corner of his mouth. Looking at Yin Dao's unbearable appearance, Li Shan only felt his lower abdomen churning. The feeling of nausea became more and more intense, making him try his best to close his mouth to prevent himself from vomiting. When Wu Kedi saw Yin Dao's appearance, he knew something was wrong. Although he had never seen Li Qian's appearance, he could guess that the Li Qian mentioned by Li Mingshan must be quite beautiful. Otherwise, Yin Dao would drool just because of what Li Mingshan said. Seeing that Yin Dao's eyes were getting brighter and brighter, and the corner of his mouth was trembling, Wu Kedi suddenly shouted and interrupted Yin Dao's words. Seeing that Yin Dao was looking at him in confusion, Wu Kedi coughed and took this opportunity to quickly think about how to solve this problem. Yin Dao turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and asked with some confusion, "Wu Kedi, what's the matter?" Hearing this, Wu Kedi quickly nodded, "Brother Yin Dao, although I haven't seen Li Qian, I think she must be very beautiful." Hearing Wu Kedi's question, Yin Dao wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and nodded, "She is indeed very beautiful. Among the women I've seen, she should be the most beautiful." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Wu Kedi suddenly sighed, "Brother Yin Dao, I thought you were a man of indomitable spirit, and would work hard for your future at all costs." At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "But now it seems that I was wrong about you, Brother Yin Dao. You're also the kind of person who would disregard his future for a woman. You've really disappointed me." At the end of his words, Wu Kedi sighed again to express his strong disappointment in Yin Dao. Hearing Wu Kedi's sigh, Yin Dao's heart suddenly moved, and the confused feeling in his mind miraculously dissipated a lot. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao was surprised and happy. It seemed that he could not be together with Li Qian immediately. However, after hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao felt a little guilty. Was he really that kind of person? Would he give up his future for Li Qian? Yin Dao felt a deep sense of reluctance in his mind, but with great perseverance, he blocked this feeling of reluctance out of his mind. Yin Dao took a deep breath, then turned to look at Wu Kedi and asked slowly, Wu Kedi, what do you want to say? Just say it, I'm here to listen. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kedi was suddenly overjoyed and said with a smile, Brother Yin Dao, you are really good. I was right about you. At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Brother Yin Dao, as a man, you have to prioritize your own future. This is what a man should do. Brother Yin Dao, think about it, once your future is guaranteed, what kind of woman can't you have? Li Qian, Zhong Qian, they will all surround you. Brother Yin Dao, tell me, am I right or not? After listening to Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao thought for a while and then slowly nodded, Wu Kedi, you are right. I should do this. Hearing the conversation between the two of them, Li Shan was about to explode from anger. He had shamelessly thrown out his niece, but he didn't expect that Li Mingshan would use this reason to block him. Li Mingshan was not reconciled. He took a few deep breaths, trying to think of a way to deal with Wu Kedi. At this time, Yin Dao turned to look at Li Mingshan and said apologetically, Lord Protector, it seems that I have to waste your good intention. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan was annoyed, but in front of so many people, he could only smile and nod. Yin Dao, it doesn't matter. Everyone has their own ambitions. Some people like their future, and some people like women. This can't be forced. Speaking of this, Li Mingshan's eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly had an idea in his heart, so he continued to say with a smile, Yin Dao, your idea is good. Then I will congratulate you on your bright future. At this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, Unfortunately, I heard that someone is going to propose marriage to my niece. Have you heard about it? Chapter 556. Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao was taken aback. Thinking of Li Qian's beauty, a feeling of reluctance arose in his heart. Looking at Yin Dao's regretful eyes, Li Shan sneered in his heart, but the expression on his face did not change. Li Shan said with a smile, I thought that you, Yin Dao, were a couple with my niece, but I didn't expect that you have no interest in her. Forget it. Speaking of this, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing, when my niece gets married, I will definitely invite you to her wedding. At that time, please come. Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao clenched his teeth, Protector, is what you said true? Is Miss Li Qian really going to get married? Li Shan nodded, of course it's true. My niece is not young anymore. If she doesn't get married, she will become a joke. Yin Dao exclaimed, how could that be? Miss Li Qian is as beautiful as a flower. How could she become a joke? Everyone is envious of her. Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, really? I don't think so. I thought that my niece wouldn't be able to get married. Yin Dao stared at Li Shan. Li Qian's figure constantly appeared in his mind. Such a beautiful woman would actually become someone else's wife. Yin Dao clenched his teeth even tighter. The feeling of reluctance in his heart became stronger, making him feel uncomfortable. After a long time, Yin Dao suddenly said, Protector, is there really hope for Miss Li Qian and me? Hearing Yin Dao's question, Li Shan pretended to have a strange expression and asked, Yin Dao, don't you dislike my niece? Why do you ask this again? Speaking of this, Li Shan paused and pretended to be suddenly enlightened. Then, he continued, Yin Dao, are you afraid that my niece won't be able to get married? Yin Dao, don't worry. Even if you can't find a good one, can't you find a bad one? Yin Dao, you'd better not force yourself, lest it affects your future. I also feel bad in my heart. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao immediately exclaimed, No, it's not like that. I'm just worried that Miss Li Qian won't like me. Really, I'm not lying. Please believe me, Mr. Protector. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan immediately pretended to be surprised. Yin Dao, what are you saying? Are you trying to comfort me? Hearing this, Yin Dao hurriedly said loudly, I didn't, Lord Protector. I really like Miss Li Qian, please help us. Li Shan turned his head and looked at Yin Dao. His eyes were bright, as if he wanted to see if Yin Dao was telling the truth. After a long while, Li Shanshan sighed softly. Yin Dao, you don't have to comfort me. With your talent, how could you like my niece? Before Li Mingshan finished his words, he was interrupted by Silver Knife's sharp voice. No, I'm telling the truth. I really like Miss Li Qian. I've liked Miss Li Qian for a long time. I was just afraid that Miss Li Qian would not like me, so I didn't dare to say it. Really, I'm telling the truth. Please believe me, Your Excellency. Li Shanshan turned his head and looked at Yin Dao, asking seriously, really? You're not lying to me? Yin Dao immediately nodded hard. Really, I'm not lying to you. I fell in love with Miss Li Qian at first sight. Li Shanshan nodded and suddenly said, Are you willing to be with my niece and not leave the Godly Knife sect? Hearing this, Yin Dao immediately nodded. Really, as long as Mr. Protector is willing to help me, I won't leave the Godly Knife sect no matter what. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Shanshan nodded with satisfaction. He turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and said with a smile, Wu Kedi, what else do you want to say? Wu Kedi's face was livid with anger, and even his hands were shaking. Hearing Li Shanshan's question, Wu Kedi gritted his teeth and shouted, Li Shanshan, you win. Speaking of this, Wu Kedi paused and then continued, But, do you think I can't deal with you like this? Humph, don't even think about it. After saying this, Wu Kedi suddenly turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said loudly, Brother Yin Dao, since Li Shanshan said so, I won't hide it from you. To tell you the truth, you also have a daughter who is the successor of the Wu clan. Not only is she beautiful, her martial arts are also good, and she is also doted on by her father. If you can get her, even if you can't become the Wu clan's patriarch in the future, you will definitely become one of the most important figures in the Wu clan. Brother Yin Dao, I didn't want to say these words and wanted to wait until you joined the Wu clan before we slowly discuss it. But, that old bastard Li Shanshan is too hateful. He actually used such a despicable method to deceive you, so I have no choice but to say this. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, an uproar broke out. Some people simply couldn't believe their own ears. When Wu Kedi said this, even his uncle, Wu Lai, blushed a little. Wu Lai never thought that his nephew, Wu Kedi, who he had watched grow up, would actually be such a shameless person. Although others were incomparably shocked by this matter, Wu Kedi didn't care at all. At this point, he could be considered to have given it his all. As long as he succeeded, that level 25 equipment would be his. That was a piece of level 25 equipment. Even the patriarch only had one piece. Normally, he wouldn't be willing to wear it and would only wear it when an important guest came to visit. Only then would he wear that piece of level 25 equipment to show off. Therefore, regardless of the reason, Wu Kedi had to give it his all. Yin Dao, who was originally extremely tempted by Li Qian, couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Wu Kedi's words. His heart began to move. Although a beauty was important, so was a future. Although Yin Dao was a madman, he also knew that without sufficient status and future, even if he obtained Li Qian, she might run away halfway. For the sake of safety, they had to have a good future and a good status. If he stayed in the Godly Saber sect, he would be able to obtain Li Qian, but it wouldn't be of much help to his own development. However, after hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao began to be tempted. As long as he joined the Wu clan, became the disciple of the Wu clan's successor, then became the son-in-law of the Wu clan's successor. With this identity, his status in the Wu clan would definitely not be low in the future. Most importantly, Wu Kedi had clearly stated that the daughter of the Wu clan's successor wouldn't be ugly, but as beautiful as a flower. Thinking of this, Yin Dao suddenly raised his head and looked at Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi, is what you said true? Chapter 557. Hearing Yin Dao's question, Wu Kedi sneered in his heart. If he wanted to deal with a small silver knife, wouldn't that be an easy matter? Wu Kedi smiled and waved his hand. Brother Yin Dao, when have I ever lied to you? If you can tell me, I'll immediately turn around and leave. I won't have the face to see you. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao nodded. He had to admit that Wu Kedi did not lie to him. Seeing Yin Dao nod, Wu Kedi slowly said, Brother Yin Dao, come, I'm telling you the truth. The daughter of the Wu family's successor will not disappoint you. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. There are at least 800 people in the south region who want to pursue her. Brother Yin Dao, I see that you're talented and hardworking, so I'm talking to you about this. Don't let go of this good opportunity. Yin Dao thought for a long time before swallowing his saliva. With a hoarse voice, he asked, Wu Kedi, since there are so many people pursuing her, do you think I have a chance? Hearing this, Wu Kedi laughed. Brother Yin Dao, you have to have confidence in yourself. You're someone I have my eyes on, so I'll definitely help you. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, you're different from them. Because you have me, your success rate is much higher than theirs. Yin Dao hesitated and said, but my martial arts aren't good. I'm afraid I can't compare to them. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kedi was stunned. For a moment, he couldn't answer Yin Dao's words. What Yin Dao said was the truth. Those who wanted to pursue the daughter of the Wu family's successor were all geniuses. Which one of them wasn't a young hero? For someone like Yin Dao, he probably wouldn't even dare to think about trying. However, Wu Kedi couldn't tell Yin Dao the truth because everything was impossible. Yin Dao wanted to marry the daughter of the Wu family's successor. This was a huge joke. No one would take it seriously. The only person who would take it seriously was Yin Dao. Now that Yin Dao recognized his own shortcomings, he didn't have any confidence. Therefore, Wu Kedi had to give Yin Dao confidence and let him join the Wu family and give him his level 25 equipment. Although Wu Kedi thought so, he felt extremely helpless in his heart. No matter how one looked at it, Yin Dao was indeed very bad. It was not just bad, but very bad. However, this was not the time to talk about which aspect of Silver Knife was weak, but which aspect of Silver Knife was strong. However, in which aspect was the Silver Knife strong? Wu Kudi frowned and pondered for a long time. Miraculously, he found that he couldn't find any good points about Yin Dao. In terms of appearance, Silver Knife was at most an ordinary person. In terms of martial arts, Yin Dao was even worse. In terms of talent, Silver Blade was even more lacking. In terms of family background, Yin Dao's family was not strong either. Wu Kedi felt a headache coming on after examining the silver knife from head to toe. He couldn't find any good points about the silver knife. Seeing that Wu Kedi wasn't willing to answer his question, Silver Knife lost even more confidence and said dejectedly, Wu Kedi, thank you for your kindness, but it seems that I really can't do it. No, Yin Dao, you misunderstood. Just as Yin Dao finished speaking, he was interrupted by Wu Kedi's shocked voice. Taking advantage of this short period of time, Wu Kedi's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said with a smile, Yin Dao, why can't I? Don't forget, when the time comes, you can use your equipment to exchange for a spiritual medicine. Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Brother Yin Dao, as long as you eat the spiritual medicine you exchange for, then your martial arts will skyrocket. When the time comes, won't that be your advantage? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's eyes also lit up. Only now did he suddenly remember that there was still a level 25 equipment. If he could exchange this level 25 equipment for a good quality spiritual medicine, when the time came, as long as he ate it, his martial arts would definitely skyrocket. As long as his martial arts were high, then wouldn't that be his advantage? Thinking up to here, Yin Dao only felt a sense of pride rise from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but look up to the sky and laugh. His laughter was so carefree that everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Yin Dao's heart was extremely comfortable. It was as if he had already eaten a peerless spiritual medicine and increased his martial arts by many years, becoming an expert of a generation. Wu Kedi coldly looked at Yin Dao, who was laughing towards the sky. After Yin Dao stopped laughing, he said in a deep voice, Brother Yin Dao, since you have thought it through, then you should also understand that joining the Wu clan is the best choice. Yin Dao, quickly go and report this news to your Lord Protector. After that, we will leave this place and complete your dream as soon as possible. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's face was filled with excitement as he nodded his head. He turned his head and looked at Li Shan. Just as he was about to speak, he was stopped by Li Shan with a cold expression. Yin Dao, have you thought it through? Hearing Li Shan's question, Yin Dao firmly nodded his head and slowly said, Lord Protector, I have thought it through. Only by joining the Wu clan can I obtain what I want. Hearing this, Li Shan slowly nodded his head. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was in an uproar. Yin Dao wanted to leave the Godly Knife faction? A small person like Yin Dao leaving the Godly Knife faction was not a big deal in Li Shan's eyes. However, Yin Dao was different. He had that level 25 equipment, and that was the key. Once Yin Dao left the Godly Knife faction, he would naturally not be able to obtain that level 25 equipment. Li Shan was not willing to accept this. He had spent so much effort and did not hesitate to have a falling out with the fire spirit to obtain that level 25 equipment. Now that Wu Kedi had taken advantage of it, Li Shan would definitely not accept this. However, Wu Kedi's conditions were already so high. He had even married the Wu clan's successor's daughter to Yin Dao. Then, wouldn't he have to offer even higher conditions to pull Yin Dao back? Li Shan racked his brains and desperately tried to think of a reason to attract the silver knife. Wu Kedi's conditions were already at the peak. If Li Shan wanted to offer even higher conditions, it would be impossible. However, even if he knew it was impossible, Li Shan still had to think of a way. Otherwise, that level 25 equipment would fly away. Yin Dao saw that Li Shan did not speak, so he hurriedly asked, Lord Protector, if I leave the Godly Knife faction now, you won't stop me, right? After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan's eyebrows couldn't help but twitch. His hand involuntarily wanted to grab the handle of the knife, but he resisted. His fingers only grabbed the air and did not grab the handle. Li Shan was very clear that now was not the time to fight. The most important thing was to think of a way to deal with Wu Kedi. Chapter 558. Li Shan thought for a moment, then turned to look at Yin Dao and sighed. Yin Dao, do you know why I let you become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's sixth disciple? Yin Dao shook his head. I don't know. Li Shan said with a wry smile, the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's sixth disciple is the weakest among his 6 fellow apprentices. If that's the case, why would I let you become his disciple? Haven't you thought about it? After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao shook his head again. Lord Protector, I really don't know what the reason is. Li Shan sighed and said with a self-deprecating tone, I thought you would understand my painstaking efforts, but I didn't think it was just my wishful thinking. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao was at a loss and hurriedly asked, Lord Protector, is there a reason for letting me become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple? Li Shan nodded. Yin Dao, to tell you the truth, if there wasn't a very important reason, why would I let you become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple? After asking this, Li Shan's tone paused. He didn't wait for Yin Dao to answer and continued to speak. The Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple has something that no one else has. Yin Dao, do you know? Yin Dao shook his head. I don't know, please tell me, Lord Protector. Li Shan nodded. Well, since you don't know, then I'll tell you. In the past, the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple was given a weapon by the Godly Knife Sect's master. This weapon's name is Sky Chopping Blade. Have you ever heard of it? After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao shook his head again. I'm just an ordinary disciple of the Godly Knife Sect. How would I know the secrets of the Godly Knife Sect? Li Shan also knew that Yin Dao would not know, so he continued, I remember that in the past, the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect would give this sky-chopping blade to his most valued disciple, hoping that he would inherit the position of the sect master in the future. Therefore, this sky-chopping blade is equivalent to a token of the sect master. Whoever obtains this sky-chopping blade will have a high chance of becoming the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect. After saying this, Li Shan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Yin Dao, now you understand why I want you to become a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple. After hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up as he asked in surprise, Lord Protector, could it be that you have already allowed me to join the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple? Could it be for that sky-chopping blade? Li Shan nodded. This is only one of the reasons. Although the Godly Knife Sect's 6th disciple's martial arts are not the strongest among the 6 disciples, the main reason is because he is the youngest. Therefore, in terms of martial arts and experience, it is inevitable that there will be some inadequacies. If you can join his sect, as long as he seriously instructs you, your martial arts will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. I believe that as long as you practice diligently, your martial arts will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. At that time, as long as you obtain the Sky Chopping Blade, in my opinion, the next Godly Knife Sect's sixth disciple will most likely be the Godly Knife Sect's sixth disciple. And if you obtain the Sky Chopping Blade, you will have a 70% to 80% chance of becoming the next sect master. After listening to Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao only felt his heart beat faster, his thoughts fluctuating. He only felt a warm current surging from the bottom of his heart, instantly making him excited. Sky Chopping Blade, if he could obtain the Sky Chopping Blade, he would have a 70% to 80% chance of becoming the next sect master. The Godly Knife Sect's influence was huge, and there were countless disciples. If he could become the sect master of the Godly Knife Sect, that would be something that he would want. Thinking of this, Yin Dao only felt a burst of dizziness, making him so excited that he could not control himself. After a long while, Yin Dao's emotions slowly calmed down a little. He raised his head, slowly turned his gaze to Li Shanshan, and asked in a trembling voice, "Lord Protector, is what you said true?" Hearing Yin Dao's question, Li Shanshan nodded. Of course it is true. If you don't believe in the Sky Chopping Blade, you can ask the other disciples, and you will know if what I said is true or not. Just as Li Shanshan's voice fell, and before Yin Dao could answer, Wu Kedi on the side let out a sneer. After sneering, Wu Kedi coldly said, "Yin Dao, don't listen to Li Shanshan's nonsense. Although the Sky Chopping Blade is true, let me tell you, you will absolutely not be able to obtain the Sky Chopping Blade." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao was suddenly startled. His excited mood was like being splashed with cold water, quickly calming down. "Wu Kedi, what did you say?" Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao, and said with a sneer, "Yin Dao, what Li Shanshan said is false. You will not be able to obtain the Sky Chopping Blade." Hearing this, Yin Dao looked at Li Shanshan in disbelief, and then turned his head to look at Wu Kedi, and asked in a trembling voice, "Wu Kedi, why can't I obtain the Sky Chopping Blade?" Hearing Yin Dao's question, Wu Kedi sneered, and turned his head to look at Li Shanshan. "Li Shanshan, tell me, how do you want Yin Dao to obtain the Sky Chopping Blade?" Hearing Wu Kedi's question, Li Shanshan suddenly froze, and thought in his heart, "How do I know how to obtain the Sky Chopping Blade? If I could obtain the Sky Chopping Blade, I would have already obtained it. Why would I wait until now, and still be a protector of the Godly Blade Sect?" Although Li Shanshan thought this in his heart, but in front of Yin Dao, he naturally could not say this. He pondered for a moment, and then slowly said, "Wu Kedi, how I let Yin Dao obtain the Sky Chopping Blade is our Godly Blade Sect's business. It seems that he does not need an outsider like you to interfere." Hearing this, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao, and sneered, "Yin Dao, the Sky Chopping Blade is true. Although I am not a disciple of the Godly Blade Sect, I know that the Sky Chopping Blade is very important to the Godly Blade Sect. What Li Shanshan said is also true. In the past, among the disciples who obtained the Sky Chopping Blade, 90% of them did become the sect leader of the Godly Blade Sect. This is absolutely true. Yin Dao, if you can obtain the Sky Chopping Blade, there is a very high chance that you can become the sect leader of the Godly Blade Sect. All of this is true." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao asked doubtfully, "Since what the Protector said is true, then why do you say that I can't obtain the Sky Chopping Blade?" Hearing this, Wu Kedi sneered again, "Yin Dao, the Sky Chopping Blade is very important to the Godly Blade Sect. Do you think that such an important thing will fall into your hands?" Just as Wu Kedi finished speaking, before Yin Dao could answer, Li Shanshan had already spoken first. "Wu Kedi, don't look down on people. What makes you think that Yin Dao can't obtain the Sky Chopping Blade?" Chapter 559. After hearing Li Shanshan's question, Wu Kedi once again sneered, "Li Shanshan, you can fool Yin Dao, but if you want to fool me, it won't be easy." Hearing this, Li Shanshan sneered, "Wu Kedi, do you look down on Yin Dao that much?" Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan's tone paused. He didn't wait for Wu Kedi's reply and continued, "Wu Kedi, although you don't think highly of Yin Dao, I think highly of Yin Dao. Yin Dao was young and promising. He was hardworking and patient. Plus, he was tenacious. These were all advantages that others didn't have. I believe that as long as Yin Dao meets a famous teacher, with these advantages of his, he will definitely become outstanding. It is because of these reasons that I decided to help Yin Dao, to let him display his advantages and achieve his dream. At the end, Li Shanshan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and smiled. Yin Dao, I think highly of you and want to help you. I hope you won't disappoint me. After Li Shanshan finished speaking, before Yin Dao could speak, Wu Kedi sneered again. Li Shanshan, then tell me, how do you want Yin Dao to get the sky-chopping blade? Hearing this, Li Shanshan shook his head. As long as I tell you, I naturally have a way to let Yin Dao get the sky-chopping blade. However, this is the secret of the godly knife sect, and I will never let an outsider like you know. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. After laughing, he lowered his head to look at Li Shanshan and said coldly, Li Shanshan, I don't think this is a secret. It should be that you have no way to let Yin Dao get the sky-chopping blade. Everything you said is fake. You are lying to Yin Dao. Li Shanshan, am I right? Seeing Wu Kedi's aggressive tone, Li Shanshan immediately became angry. Wu Kedi, don't talk nonsense. How can we let an outsider like you know about our godly knife sect's secret? After saying this, Li Shanshan turned his head to look at Yin Dao. The anger on his face immediately disappeared and was replaced by a smile. Yin Dao, don't listen to Wu Kedi's nonsense. Why would I lie to you? Hearing this, Wu Kedi turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said lightly, since Li Shanshan said he didn't lie to you, then let him tell you, how can he let you get the sky-chopping blade? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao couldn't help but frown. He turned his head to look at Li Shanshan and asked, Lord Protector, do you have a way for me to obtain the heaven-cleaving saber? Seeing that Yin Dao was really asking him a question, he felt a bit annoyed in his heart. However, at this moment, he could not really get angry at Yin Dao. He could only continue to maintain the smile on his face as he spoke softly. Yin Dao, I won't lie to you. As long as I say this, I will definitely find a way for you to obtain the heaven-chopping blade. Wu Kedi is just an outsider. If you want to obtain the heaven-chopping blade, it will involve the secrets of the godly blade sect. How could we let an outsider know about these secrets? At this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, don't worry. Once this matter is over, I will immediately tell you the method. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi sneered. Li Shanshan, don't try to cheat Silver Dao. What kind of secret do you have? I think you're just talking nonsense. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was really angry. He slowly turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and asked word by word, Wu Kedi, since you want to know how I let Yin Dao get the sky-chopping blade, then tell me how you let Yin Dao get the daughter of the Wu family's successor. After hearing Li Shanshan's question, Wu Kedi was stunned. For a moment, he was speechless. Seeing Wu Kedi's expression, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart. He didn't want to expose Wu Kedi's trick, but Wu Kedi didn't know what was good for him. He actually dared to compete with him. Right now, everyone was trying to cheat Yin Dao. Therefore, the one who offered the highest price would win. Wu Kedi had just said that he would give the daughter of the Wu family's successor to Yin Dao. Li Shanshan didn't expose him, but Wu Kedi shamelessly wanted to expose him. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan clenched his teeth. Since Wu Kedi wanted to fight with him, then let's have a good fight. Since Wu Kedi said that he couldn't let Yin Dao get the sky-chopping blade, then tell him how you would let Yin Dao get the daughter of the Wu family's successor. After a while, Wu Kedi finally regained his composure. He looked up at Li Shanshan and sneered, Li Shanshan, how I let Yin Dao get the daughter of the Wu family's successor is also my secret. I can't tell anyone else. Seeing that Wu Kedi was using his own method to deal with him, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart, Wu Kedi, I think you are talking nonsense. How noble is the Wu family's successor? I think you don't even know what his daughter looks like. How could you make peace for Yin Dao? I think you are just talking nonsense to deceive Yin Dao. Hearing Li Shanshan's question, Wu Kedi hurriedly shook his head. Li Shanshan, when did I deceive Yin Dao? Everything I said is true. Do you think that with Yin Dao's condition, he wouldn't be able to get the daughter of the Wu family's successor? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, "Don't listen to Wu Kedi's nonsense. How noble is the Wu family's successor? Since he doesn't care about the Wu family's affairs and only focuses on practicing martial arts every day, it wouldn't be easy for outsiders to take a look at him, let alone the daughter of the Wu family's successor." Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, "Although I haven't seen the daughter of the Wu family's successor, if I'm not wrong, even among the Wu family's disciples, there are probably many who haven't seen the daughter of the Wu family's successor. Yin Dao, think about it. Under such circumstances, how could Wu Kedi fulfill his conditions? He couldn't even meet the daughter of the Wu clan's successor. How could he say that he could mediate between the two of you? Isn't that just nonsense?" After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi clenched his teeth and said, "Li Shanshan, you're right. Our Wu family's successor doesn't see many outsiders. But don't forget, I'll let Yin Dao become his disciple first, and then slowly get in touch with his daughter. Don't tell me that by doing this, he won't be able to see his daughter." Li Shanshan sneered, "Wu Kedi, then tell me, in this state, how can you make the Wu family's successor accept Yin Dao as his disciple?" Hearing Li Shanshan's question, Wu Kedi sneered and shook his head, "Li Shanshan, aren't you meddling a bit too much? I've already told you, and you still want to ask?" Chapter 560. Li Shanshan said coldly, "If it's really as easy as you say, then he would have thousands of disciples." "Wu Kedi, stop lying." Wu Kedi heard this and said angrily, "Lying? Li Shanshan, why would I lie? I can do all this, so I told Yin Dao. Unlike you, you talk nonsense all day long, even deceiving your own disciples." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan turned his head and glared at him. Then he said coldly, "Who are you calling a liar?" Wu Kedi sneered, "There are only two of us talking here. Do you think I can talk to someone else?" Li Shanshan glared at Wu Kedi. After a long time, he suddenly sighed, "Wu Kedi, I suddenly feel that you are simply too annoying." Wu Kedi heard this and nodded, "I feel the same." Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shanshan's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. "Since it's like this, then let's have a fight. Let's vent our anger first. Wu Kedi, what do you think?" Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. After laughing, he slowly nodded, "Okay, I also have the same idea." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's tone paused for a while before he continued, "If I don't beat you up, I really can't vent my anger." Hearing this, Li Shanshan nodded and didn't speak anymore. He slowly held the hilt of his saber. His eyes were like lightning, closely watching Wu Kedi's every move. Although Wu Kedi said it casually, he didn't dare to be careless. Li Shanshan's martial arts were definitely not below his, or even above his. Facing such an opponent, Wu Kedi absolutely didn't dare to underestimate him. This time, Li Shanshan didn't quickly draw his saber. Instead, he slowly pulled it out and raised it in front of his face. "Wu Kedi, you really made me angry. This time, I won't hold back. I hope you must be careful. If you regret now, it's not too late. When I make my move, even if I want to hold back, I won't be able to do it." After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi suddenly laughed, "Li Shanshan, I didn't expect us to have some similarities." At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "What you just said is exactly what I was thinking. Whenever I look at you, I can't help but want to beat you into a pulp to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Therefore, I won't hold back anymore. I hope you know what you're doing. Don't be beaten into a pile of mud by me just because you're big, haha." Although Wu Kedi was laughing wildly, he did not dare to be careless. The person in front of him was the protector of the godly sword sect, a famous expert in the South region. If he dared to be careless, he would definitely lose. Wu Kedi did not want to be defeated in front of so many people. He wanted to win. This time, he had to win because only by winning would he be able to obtain the greatest benefits. Not to mention the other benefits, just the silver knife. If Wu Kedi really defeated Li Shanshan, the silver knife would definitely be yearning for it. Wu Kedi would then guide it with his words, and it would naturally be a success. However, If he lost, he could forget about the level 25 equipment. Therefore, Wu Kedi had to win, and win beautifully. Thinking of this, Wu Kedi slowly clenched his fists. At the same time, his chi began to circulate crazily, gathering in his arms in the blink of an eye. Li Shanshan did not seem to look at Wu Kedi. His eyes were always on his knife. Although this knife was not a famous knife, it was a good knife that Li Shanshan did his best to obtain. The blade was as bright as snow, flashing a cold light in the darkness. Holding this knife, Li Shanshan's originally agitated mood suddenly calmed down. As long as he had this knife in his hand, he was not afraid of anyone. Although he might not be able to win, his heart was filled with confidence. The knife in Li Shanshan's hand trembled, and one by one, it brought out the light of a knife. In this battle, there was no right or wrong, only benefits. Whoever could defeat the other party would have the absolute right to speak. There was also a high chance that the level 25 equipment would fall into the hands of the victor. Therefore, both Wu Kedi and Li Shanshan wanted to win. But both of them knew that things were not that simple. Their opponent was a famous figure in the South region, and was definitely not an opponent that could be easily defeated. Therefore, they had to give it their all and try to defeat their opponent in the first round. Seeing that the two were about to fight again, Shadowless knew that this was not good. Just as he was about to stop them again, he saw Li Shanshan's knife light suddenly become brighter, turning into a light that flew towards Wu Kedi. At the same time, Wu Kedi also let out a low roar. The chi that had already gathered in his arms turned into a wave of chi that went towards Li Shanshan's knife light. Seeing this, Shadowless could only sigh. He stopped moving and stood there, watching the result of the battle. Pa! The knife light and the fist finally collided, making a muffled sound. After the muffled sound, both of them coldly snorted at the same time and were sent flying back. As soon as Li Shan landed, he did not care about the feeling of being sent flying. He immediately waved his knife again, jumping into the air and slashing towards Wu Kedi. Seeing this, Wu Kedi suddenly let out a roar. The chi in his fist burst out again, meeting Li Shanshan's knife light head-on. Pa! The fist and the knife light collided again. Li Shanshan's body was suddenly sent flying, but Wu Kedi did not move at all. However, he was only sent crouching down for a bit before standing up again. Although Wu Kedi was not sent flying, he was actually at a greater disadvantage. After Li Shan received this recoil, his whole body immediately retreated, reducing a bit of this violent power, but Li Shan did not have this opportunity, and directly came into contact with the impact of this force. Looking at Li Shanshan, who was far away, Wu Kedi took a deep breath. He wanted to chase after him, but the churning in his stomach made him very uncomfortable. Helpless, he could only stand still and silently circulate his chi to heal his injured organs. Although Wu Kedi was at a great disadvantage, Li Shanshan was not feeling well either. The two of them had collided head-on. Even if he had a peerless knife skill, he could not use it. Li Shanshan took a deep breath and calmed his trembling stomach. Just as he was about to attack again, he suddenly felt a shadow flash in front of him. Shadowless was already in front of him, blocking his path. Li Shanshan, are you crazy? What good will this do you? Hearing Shadowless' words, Li Shanshan's heart suddenly moved. Only then did he realize that he had been too excited. The key now was not the battle with Wu Kedi, but the level 25 equipment. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan immediately withdrew his knife. Chapter 561. Li Mingshan withdrew his saber, so Wu Kedi naturally didn't want to attack anymore. He was still suffering from the shock from before, and if he forcefully used his Jin Qi again, he was afraid that his injuries would worsen, and at that time, it wouldn't be easy to deal with. Shadowless looked at the two and sighed, I heard the promise you two just made. Now, which one of you can tell me how to fulfill your promise? Li Shanshan heard this and sneered, since I said it, I naturally have a way to fulfill it. Li Shanshan paused for a moment, and then continued, but this is our godly knife sect's secret, why should I tell you? After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shadowless didn't care. He just nodded and said with a smile. Since you both said it's your sect's secret, then don't pursue it. I think, in the future, no matter what you say, don't pursue it. This way, There won't be any disputes. What do you think? Li Shanshan naturally had no problem, and immediately nodded. Shadowless, don't worry, as long as Wu Kedi doesn't trouble me, I won't trouble him. Shadowless nodded, and turned to look at Wu Kedi. Wu Kedi, what about you? Wu Kedi wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, and nodded. I have no objections. Just now, Wu Kedi was at a disadvantage when fighting Li Shanshan. Li Shanshan had a blade in his hand, and Wu Kedi was barehanded. Comparing the two, Li Shanshan naturally had a big advantage. Which was more powerful, a fist or a blade? There was absolutely no doubt about it. Even the most common blade was more useful than a fist. If it was a normal fight, the barehanded Wu Kedi naturally wouldn't fight Li Shanshan with a blade. When Wu Kedi's fist and Li Mingshan's saber collided, Wu Kedi had to launch an even more powerful true qi in order to protect his fist from being cut off by Li Mingshan's saber. In this way, he would suffer an invisible loss. If Wu Kedi didn't fight Li Shanshan head-on, and used other methods, he would save a lot of energy and have a better chance of winning. Wu Kedi secretly hated himself for being careless, but since it was already like this, even if he regretted, it was too late. After hearing Shadowless' words, he could only nod. Shadowless smiled and said, okay, let's renegotiate then. Shadowless paused and turned to look at Silverblade before continuing. Brother Silverblade, you'll have to see if you're satisfied with their conditions. At the end of his speech, Shadowless suddenly winked at Silverblade, giving him a meaningful look. While Yin Dao was staring at Shadowless back in a daze, Li Shanshan suddenly smiled and said, Yin Dao, you are a disciple of our Godly Knife sect. I hope you can stick to your beliefs and contribute more to the Godly Knife sect. Let the future disciples of the Godly Knife sect spread your name. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao's mind suddenly shook. Although these words didn't have any practical content, they were very encouraging, making Yin Dao's mind heat up. Wu Kedi slowly walked up. He first glanced at Li Mingshan, then turned to look at Yin Dao and said with a smile, Brother Silverblade, you must make the right choice. This has a lot to do with your future. Here, Wu Kedi paused for a bit before continuing. Although the Godly Knife sect is powerful and this is its biggest advantage, it is also its weakness. The Godly Knife sect has countless disciples. From another point of view, if the Godly Knife sect wants to train their disciples, it is impossible for them to treat everyone equally. This is because they have too many disciples. If they treat everyone equally, no one will benefit. Therefore, they can only use limited resources to train a very small number of talented disciples. Yin Dao, what do you think your talent is in the Godly Knife sect? Is it the kind that can be heavily trained? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao's face immediately became gloomy. He shook his head and said with a hoarse voice, No. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Wu Kedi nodded, just as I guessed. Brother Silverblade, although you are diligent, strong, and brave, your talent in martial arts is not enough. Therefore, it is almost impossible for you to be heavily trained. Here, Wu Kedi paused for a bit before continuing, but our Wu clan is different. We don't have many people in the Wu clan to begin with, so we use elite tactics. Although we don't have many disciples, all of them are experts in martial arts. Because we don't have many people, almost everyone can get resources from our Wu clan. This is the advantage of having fewer people. Brother Yin Dao, if you join our Wu clan, we will definitely treat you well. Even if you don't get any special treatment, we will definitely give you more resources for martial arts training than you would have in the Godly Knife sect. You can rest assured about this. Moreover, you have my help. If you can become a disciple of the Wu clan's successor, you will get more resources and your future will be better. Brother Silverblade, think about it carefully. Whether you want to become an elite disciple of the Wu clan or an ordinary disciple of the Godly Knife sect, it is all up to you. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao could not help but grit his teeth. He admitted that what Wu Kedi said was true, because this was what he experienced in the Godly Knife sect. There were too many disciples in the Godly Knife sect. Just like what Wu Kedi said, most of them were not heavily trained by the sect and could only develop helplessly. The disciples that were heavily trained by the Godly Knife sect were basically taken in as disciples by the higher-ups of the Godly Knife sect. With careful guidance, the The gap between these elite disciples and ordinary disciples quickly widened. Ever since Yin Dao entered the Godly Knife sect, he had not received any resources to train. The only advantage he had was the ordinary knife in his hand. On the other hand, the disciples that were heavily trained by the Godly Knife sect were completely different. After not seeing them for a few months, Yin Dao could clearly see that not only had their weapons improved, but their martial arts had also improved. Comparing the two, Yin Dao was even more miserable. He felt that his future was bleak. Yin Dao raised his head and looked at Wu Kedi. In his heart, he was carefully thinking about what he had just said. The Wu clan had fewer people, and because of that, they were able to get more benefits. Yin Dao actually agreed with this point. The Godly Knife sect actually had a lot of resources, but they had a lot of people. Although there seemed to be a lot of resources in the warehouse, when it was distributed to an individual, it was actually not much. The Wu clan was different. They had fewer people, so the resources that they could distribute to an individual were naturally more. Yin Dao never thought that martial arts could only be practiced diligently. He had practiced diligently for so long, but he still did not have any results. Chapter 562. If hard work worked, Yin Dao was sure that he would have been invincible long ago. It was only useful for disciples of the same level and treatment. If he wanted to compete with disciples of a higher level, he would definitely not even think about it. Therefore, Yin Dao was very clear that resources were the way to go. With resources, a disciple could become an expert. Without resources, an expert could become a disciple of the same level. Therefore, Wu Kedi did not lie. The Wu family had few people, so each disciple would definitely get more resources than others. Seeing Yin Dao's expression change, Wu Kedi sneered in his heart, but the expression on his face did not change at all. He still had a smile on his face. Yin Dao, think about it. Originally, there were many stories in our martial arts world. Buying a disciple would give you some. If you can become the disciple of the Wu family's successor, how many benefits would you get? I think even if I don't say it, you should know. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao naturally knew that if he became the disciple of the Wu family's successor, he would naturally get more benefits from the original foundation. Thinking of this, Yin Dao already made a choice in his heart. That was to join the Wu family and strive to become the disciple of the Wu family's successor. From then on, he would step onto the peak of life. Li Shan, who was standing on the side, knew that if he did not speak, Yin Dao would definitely run away, so he quickly said, "Yin Dao, wait a moment." Speaking of this, Li Shan's tone paused. He quickly thought in his heart before continuing, "Yin Dao, you have to think clearly before making a decision. Our Godly Knife sect has many disciples. Although we will treat them differently when distributing resources, don't forget that no matter when, if you can become the disciple of the Godly Knife sect's sixth disciple, you will definitely get the most resources. Yin Dao, you shouldn't doubt this, right?" Speaking of this, Li Shan did not wait for Yin Dao's reply and continued to speak. "Yin Dao, as long as you have my help, you should have a very high chance of becoming the disciple of the Godly Knife sect's sixth disciple. I can guarantee that in terms of resources, there is no one in the entire South County who has more resources than the Godly Knife sect. In this situation, as the disciple of the Godly Knife sect's sixth disciple, you can imagine how much benefits you will get. Yin Dao, I hope you think clearly about what to choose." Hearing Li Shan's words, Yin Dao was stunned again. As a disciple of the Godly Saber sect, he naturally knew that Li Mingshan's words were not false. The Godly Saber sect had a lot of resources, and the people who could get the most resources were, of course, the disciples of the Godly Saber sect's patriarch. As the sixth disciple of the Godly Saber sect's patriarch, they would definitely get more benefits. There was one more thing that Yin Dao was sure of. Although the Wu clan was powerful, they were still far from the Godly Blade sect. Although they had a lot of resources, they were definitely incomparable to the Godly Blade sect. Most importantly, compared to the important figures of the Wu family, the important figures of the Godly Saber sect were of a higher level in the eyes of everyone in South County. Thinking up to this point, Silver Knife turned his head to look at Li Shan and quickly asked, "Lord Protector, if it weren't for that level 25 equipment, Would you have supported me to become the sixth disciple of the godly knife sect master? Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shanshan was stunned for a moment. After reacting, he hesitantly asked, Yin Dao, what do you mean? Yin Dao scratched his head embarrassedly. Lord Protector, if it's possible, I would like to use that level 25 equipment to make a deal with the Wu clan. I would like to exchange it for a higher grade elixir to increase my strength. At that time, I can ask Lord Protector to help me become the sixth disciple of the godly saber sect's patriarch. Wouldn't that be killing two birds with one stone? Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shanshan's heart trembled. He looked at Yin Dao in disbelief and asked with a trembling voice, Yin Dao, what did you say? You want to use that level 25 equipment to make a deal with the Wu clan? Yin Dao nodded. Lord Protector, Wu Kedi just said that my level 25 equipment can be exchanged for a higher grade elixir. I think what he said is true. That's why I want to make a deal with him. Hearing these words, Wu Kedi was overjoyed. He clapped his hands and shouted, Yin Dao, good job. You're doing the right thing. This is killing two birds with one stone. Speaking up to this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Yin Dao, by doing this, not only can you become the sixth disciple of the godly saber sect's patriarch and lay the foundation for your future, you can also use that level 25 equipment to exchange for a higher grade elixir, increasing your strength to the greatest extent possible. Yin Dao, it must have been hard for you to come up with such a good idea. Yin Dao, I support your idea. Just do it boldly. If anyone opposes it, the Wu clan will not let them off. Ha ha. Although Yin Dao's suggestion made Wu Ku very happy, Li Shanshan on the side was somewhat unwilling. He only felt a sudden surge of anger in his heart. He couldn't help but clench his fists. Looking at Yin Dao in front of him, he couldn't help but want to immediately rush up and beat this annoying Yin Dao into a pulp. Li Shanshan tried so hard to persuade Yin Dao to stay. He even said that he would help him become the sixth disciple of the godly saber sect's patriarch. Why? Could it be that he really liked Yin Dao's super high talent or his hard work? No, it was all because of the level 25 equipment that Shui Lingzi gave him. Li Shanshan did not allow Yin Dao to leave the godly saber sect because he wanted that level 25 equipment. That was why he was willing to give him all kinds of benefits. He even shamelessly told his niece about it. Why? It was all because of that level 25 equipment. Li Shanshan had already thought it through. As long as he got that level 25 equipment, he would no longer care about Yin Dao. Even if Yin Dao wanted to leave the godly saber sect, Li Shanshan would not care. He was just a lowly disciple. Li Shanshan was not related to him in any way, so why would he sincerely help him? However, after promising so many benefits, this hateful Yin Dao actually dared to say such things. He wanted to give the level 25 equipment to the Wu clan and then help him become the sixth disciple of the godly saber sect's patriarch. Li Shanshan wanted to grab Yin Dao and ask him, why? Why should I help you? Without that level 25 equipment, what reason would Li Shanshan have to help him? Could it be that this silver knife really thought that he was a heavenly genius, a character that was hard to come by? Thinking up to here, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart. He looked at Yin Dao in front of him and then looked at Wu Kedi, who had a cold smile on his face. His heart suddenly moved and he immediately had an idea. Li Shanshan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and nodded with a smile. Yin Dao, you are very smart. You can actually think of a way to kill two birds with one stone. You are really amazing. Chapter 563. Hearing Li Shanshan's praise, Yin Dao said embarrassedly, It's all because of Protector's guidance that I thought of a way to get the best of both worlds. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment. His face suddenly had a hint of surprise, and then he continued, Lord Protector, could it be that you've agreed to my request? Hearing Yin Dao's question, Li Shanshan nodded and said earnestly, Yin Dao, you are a disciple of the godly knife sect, and I am the protector of the godly knife sect. We are on the same side, so I naturally won't lie to you. I just want to help you wholeheartedly and help you achieve your dreams. Speaking of this, Li Shanshan paused and then continued, Yin Dao, although what you are doing is good, it is not the best choice. If you can find a better choice, it will help you greatly in the future. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao's face showed a trace of doubt. He turned his head to look at Li Shanshan and asked tentatively, "Protector, do you have a better way?" Li Shanshan nodded. "Yin Dao, can't you think of one?" Yin Dao shook his head. "I can't think of one. Disciple thinks that the way just now is the best way." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Shanshan immediately waved his hand and said with a smile, "Yin Dao, how can that be the best way? Think about it carefully. What is your purpose? What do you want? What is the best way for you? Isn't it completely up to you to choose?" Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao scratched his head in distress. After pondering for a while, he shook his head. "I really can't think of one. Please advise me, Protector." Seeing that Yin Dao couldn't think of one, Li Shanshan slowly said, "Yin Dao, what is your dream?" Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao didn't even think about it before answering. "Of course it is to stand out and become a famous big shot." Li Shanshan asked again, "Yin Dao, then let me ask you, if you want to become a big shot, what is the first condition?" Yin Dao thought for a while and answered with some uncertainty, "It should be high martial arts, right?" Li Shanshan nodded. "Yin Dao, you're right. If you want to be a big shot, the first condition is to have high martial arts skills." At this point, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing. "There is another point, and that is power. For example, the head of the Godly Knife sect or the head of the Wu clan. On one hand, they have high martial arts, and on the other hand, they also have a high status." Speaking of this, Li Mingshan turned to look at Yin Dao and asked with a smile, "Yin Dao, do you understand what I mean?" Yin Dao thought for a while and then nodded. After a while, he shook his head again. "Although I understand a little, I'm still a little confused. Lord Protector, please explain more clearly so that I won't be able to understand." After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan nodded and said with a smile, "Okay, then I'll get straight to the point, in case you don't understand." Speaking of this, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, "Yin Dao, if you want to be a big shot, not only do you have to have high martial arts skills, but you also have to have a high status. If you can become the head of the Godly Knife sect, you will naturally be able to call the wind and summon the rain in the South County and become a big shot. However, Yin Dao, even if you become the disciple of the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect, do you have the confidence to become the head of the Godly Knife sect?" After hearing Li Shanshan's question, Yin Dao immediately shook his head. "I don't know, I really don't know." Speaking of this, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "I always feel that this is as unreal as a dream. Lord Protector, am I right?" Hearing this, Li Shanshan nodded. "Yin Dao, there are countless disciples in the Godly Knife sect, and there are countless talented people. Even if you become the disciple of the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect, you may not be able to stand out among so many disciples." Speaking of this, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, "What's more, even if you can become the disciple of the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect, even if you can stand out among his disciples and become the number one person in his sect, so what? Don't forget, the sixth disciple of the Godly Saber sect's sect master is ranked above him, and there are 5 other senior brothers ranked before him. If the Godly Saber sect's sect master chooses a successor, I'm afraid he should start from eldest senior brother." Speaking up to this point, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, "You are only a disciple of the Godly Knife sect's lord. Needless to say, even the Godly Knife sect's lord's sixth disciple does not have the confidence to become the Godly Knife sect's lord. Since the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect can't become the head of the Godly Knife sect, then how can you have the chance to become the head of the Godly Knife sect?" Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao finally understood. After understanding the reason behind it, Yin Dao's face suddenly changed as he asked in a shocked voice, "Then isn't it meaningless for me to join the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect? Even if I can learn martial arts, I won't be able to become the head of the Godly Knife sect." Li Shanshan sighed, "Yin Dao, this is what I want to say. Even if you join the sixth disciple of the Godly Knife sect, you won't have the chance to fulfill your wish." At this moment, not only did Yin Dao's face become ugly, even his body was slightly trembling as tears flowed down from his eyes. "Ha ha! I didn't think that I would be so useless." Even if Lord Protector helps me become the 6th disciple of the Godly Knife Sect, I won't be able to become the head of the Godly Knife Sect. Heavens, earth, why are you so unfair to me, Yin Dao? Even if I become the 6th disciple of the Godly Knife Sect, I won't have the chance to become the head of the Godly Knife Sect. Why is this so? Did I, Yin Dao, do something wrong to make you treat me like this? Hearing Yin Dao's cries like a cuckoo crying blood, Li Shanshan didn't feel heartbroken at all. He only felt that it was ridiculous. On the side, Wu Kedi almost laughed out loud. Yin Dao was silent for a while before he lowered his head to look at Li Shanshan. He sneered and asked, Lord Protector, since you know everything, why did you lie to me? Tell me, why did you do this? Hearing Yin Dao's question, Li Shanshan smiled and replied, Yin Dao, you are a disciple of the Godly Knife Sect. Naturally, I have to tell you the truth. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan's tone paused for a while before he continued, Yin Dao, after listening to my words, you may feel a little resentful and unwilling. But think about it carefully. As long as we work hard, we will eventually find a solution, right? Yin Dao sneered and asked, Lord Protector, don't lie to me. I am just a useless guy. No matter what you say, I can't do it. Please don't say any more. Chapter 564. Seeing that Yin Dao was puzzled, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart and slowly said, Yin Dao, think about it. Why would this happen in the Godly Knife Sect? Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan did not wait for Yin Dao to answer and continued, the main reason why this happened in the Godly Knife Sect is because there are too many people. Because there are too many people, there is a lot of competition. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, the Wu clan is different. They have too few people, and more importantly, Wu Kudi can make you a disciple of the Wu clan's successor. Yin Dao, think about it. How many disciples can the Wu clan's successor have? Relatively speaking, you will have less competition. In the Godly Knife Sect, the Godly Knife Sect's patriarch has 6 disciples, and these 6 disciples have taken in a lot of disciples. Think about it, if you compete with hundreds of people or a few people, which one is more beneficial to you? After hearing Li Shanshan's explanation, Yin Dao's eyes suddenly lit up and said in surprise, of course it is more beneficial to compete with a few people. Hearing this, Li Shanshan nodded with satisfaction. Yin Dao, now you understand what I mean? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao immediately nodded, I understand. I understand what Lord Protector means. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Lord Protector wants me to join the Wu clan. This is the most beneficial for me. Am I right? Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shanshan nodded with satisfaction. Yin Dao, you are very smart. You can understand these things very quickly. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, as for your equipment, I can make the decision for you. You can exchange it for a good elixir from the Godly Knife Sect. This way, as long as your strength increases, you will be more competitive in the Wu clan. Ha. Maybe when I see you in the future, I will have to call you Patriarch. Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Yin Dao immediately beamed with joy. He hurriedly replied, if I can really become the head of the Wu clan, I, Yin Dao, will definitely not forget Lord Protector's kindness. At that time, if Lord Protector needs anything, you must tell me. I will definitely let the Wu clan do it for Lord Protector. Just as Yin Dao finished speaking, Wu Kedi's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Yin Dao. Yin Dao hadn't even joined the Wu clan yet, but he was already fantasizing about becoming the Wu clan's patriarch. This change shocked Wu Kedi so much that he didn't know what to say. Wu Kedi was so shocked that he couldn't say anything. Silver Knife turned his head to look at him with a face full of joy and said with a smile, Lord Protector has already given me the best suggestion to join your Wu clan and become the Wu clan's patriarch. I have seriously considered his words, and I feel that they are very reasonable. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Wu Kedi, I feel that after joining your Wu clan, I will use that level 25 equipment to ask Lord Protector to exchange it for a good elixir to increase my strength. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment. He stepped forward and patted Wu Kedi's shoulder before continuing, Wu Kedi, As long as I become the Wu clan's patriarch, at that time, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. I hope that during this period of time, you will assist me well so that I can become the Wu clan's patriarch as soon as possible. After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shanshan's heart bloomed with joy. He turned his head to look at Wu Kedi and couldn't help but tease him. Wu Kedi, since you value Yin Dao's future and his potential so much, Yin Dao has already given you this opportunity to assist him. I hope that you will not waste this opportunity. Help Yin Dao well so that he can become your patriarch as soon as possible. As soon as Li Shanshan finished speaking, there was a burst of laughter that came from the side. This laughter made Wu Kedi both embarrassed and angry. He fiercely turned his head to glare at Li Shanshan and sneered, "Li Shanshan, you are wrong. In my opinion, the person who wants to capture Yin Dao should be you." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment. He turned his head to look at Yin Dao before continuing, "Brother Yin Dao, what Li Shanshan said is wrong. He is lying to you. You have been in the South region for so many years. You should know which is stronger, the Godly Sword Sect or the Wu clan, right?" Hearing Wu Kedi's question, Yin Dao didn't even think before answering, "Of course the Godly Sword Sect is stronger. The Godly Sword Sect has countless disciples. In terms of strength in the South region, there is almost no one who can match them. Although I don't know much about the Wu clan's power, I think it can't be compared to the Godly Sword Sect." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Wu Kedi immediately gave him a thumbs up. "Brother Yin Dao, you are indeed wise. How can this kind of thing stop you?" Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "That's right. In terms of power, the Godly Sword Sect is the most powerful. It is impossible for the Wu clan to be compared to the Godly Sword Sect. Brother Yin Dao, as long as you become the sect master of the Godly Sword Sect in the South region, you can be considered the number one person in the South region." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi's tone became more serious. "Brother Yin Dao, you are the number one person in the South region. As long as you become the sect master of the Godly Sword Sect, no one in the South region doesn't know you. At that time, when everyone in the South region sees you, they will respectfully call you the sect master of the Godly Sword Sect." Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi sighed, "Although the Wu clan's power is not bad, it can't be compared to the Godly Sword Sect. There aren't many disciples in the Wu clan, so their influence in the South region is not great. Even if you can become the sect master of the Wu clan, not many people will know you. With Brother Yin Dao's intelligence, if you only become the sect master of the Wu clan, it would be a waste of your talent. I think the position of sect master of the Godly Sword Sect is more suitable for you." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Yin Dao couldn't help but frown. He pondered for a moment before slowly saying, "Wu Kedi, I know about the situation you are talking about, but you also heard what we said just now. The sect master of the Godly Sword Sect has a total of 6 disciples, and these 6 disciples have taken in many disciples. In this case, I really have more than 100 competitors." At this point, Yin Dao paused. He hesitated for a moment before continuing, "Among so many people, I really don't have the confidence to stand out and become the sect master of the Godly Saber Sect. That's why I decided to join your Wu clan and become the patriarch of your Wu clan. This is also a helpless move." Hearing Yin Dao's words, Wu Kedi was so angry that his lungs almost exploded. He wanted nothing more than to go up and slap Yin Dao. Chapter 565. Many people dreamed of becoming the Wu clan's patriarch, but in Yin Dao's words, it had become a forced position that could only be taken. Wu Kudi only wanted to see what was in Yin Dao's head. Yin Dao saw that Wu Kudi didn't want to speak and just kept looking at him while gnashing his teeth. Yin Dao felt strange and hurriedly asked, "Wu Kudi, what's wrong? Are you injured?" Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "Wu Kudi, you have to protect yourself well. When I get to the Wu family, I'll need you to give me advice." After hearing Silver Knife's words, Wu Kedi almost spat out a mouthful of saliva. He was so angry that his face and neck turned red. After a while, Wu Kedi, who was gasping for breath, finally calmed down a little. At this time, Li Shanshan spoke again, "Yin Dao, since things have been decided, I don't think Wu Kudi has any objections. Why don't the two of you sign a contract? That would be safer. Yin Dao, what do you think?" Yin Dao didn't even think about this kind of thing and just waved his hand casually. Okay, since Wu Ku Di wants to sign a contract, then I'll sign one with him. I don't want him to worry that I'll forget about him after I become the Wu family's patriarch. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi, who had been bitterly enduring, couldn't bear it anymore. She first looked up to the sky and laughed a few times before saying, Yin Dao, you're right. We should sign a contract so that they don't believe you. Seeing Shui Lingzi come forward to tease him, Wu Kedi forcefully suppressed his anger and couldn't bear it any longer. He suddenly jumped up into the air. Everyone only heard Wu Ku Di's roar and saw Wu Ku Di's figure was like a cannonball, carrying an unstoppable qi as he rushed towards Shui Lingzi like a storm. Shui Lingzi didn't expect Wu Ku Di to suddenly attack. It was too late for her to dodge, so she had no choice but to fight back. Their fists collided with each other, producing a dull thud. After the thud, Wu Kedi was once again sent flying into the air by the force of the impact. Shui Lingzi had no place to dissipate the force of the punch and was forced to bend down by the powerful true qi. Her feet sank into the ground and she barely managed to catch Wu Kedi's punch. After Wu Ku Di's punch succeeded, he flipped in the air and his anger didn't diminish. He let out another roar and threw another punch at Shui Lingzi. Seeing this, Shui Lingzi cursed inwardly. Because he was in a panic, he didn't circulate all of his strength to meet Wu Kedi's attack, causing his qi to stagnate. By the time he tried to circulate his qi to meet Wu Kedi's attack, Wu Kedi's fist had already arrived. Seeing this, Fire Spirit could only stomp on the ground and rush towards Wu Ku Di like lightning, wanting to save Water Spirit. However, Wu Ku Di was so angry that he couldn't think straight. In his eyes, there was only Shui Lingzi and Shui Lingzi's mocking words. Shui Lingzi had just raised her fist when she felt a violent force smash into her shoulder, causing her to lose her balance and tumble backwards. Wu Ku Di's fist hit Shui Lingzi, but he was still angry and threw out another punch. However, at this time, Fire Spirit's attack had already arrived. Wu Ku Di was caught off guard and was hit in the left rib. Wu Ku Di was hit by Shui Lingzi's punch and let out a miserable cry as he was sent flying. Shui Lingzi rolled on the ground for 10 meters before stabilizing herself. She felt a sharp pain in her shoulder and her body tumbled. This reaction was too violent. Shui Lingzi opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood onto the ground. Wu Ku Di was hit by Fire Spirit's punch and didn't fare much better. After flying for 10 meters, he fell heavily onto the ground. Before he could get up, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Shui Lingzi was only hit in the arm by Wu Ku Di, so her injury was relatively light. However, Wu Ku Di was hit in the rib by Fire Spirit. This punch almost made him lose his fighting strength temporarily. Seeing Shui Lingzi heavily injured, Fire Spirit's temper was irritable. Seeing this scene, he was so angry that he couldn't restrain his anger. He threw a punch at Wu Ku Di and only glanced at Shui Lingzi before roaring and rushing towards Wu Ku Di. At this time, a figure suddenly rushed out from behind Wu Ku Di and blocked in front of him. Fire Spirit, do you really want to fight? Fire Spirit saw Wu Ku Tian blocking in front of him and roared again. However, he didn't stop. Instead, he threw out 2 fists towards Wu Ku Tian. Wu Ku Tian saw this and sneered. He suddenly waved his dragon head walking stick and formed a ball of light in front of him, blocking Fire Spirit. Seeing Wu Ku Tian's dragon head walking stick, Fire Spirit wasn't afraid at all. He stared at the ball of light and suddenly roared. His 2 fists turned into a single fist and smashed towards the center of the ball of light. This change happened in a flash. Fire Spirit's fist smashed into Wu Ku Tian's hand that was holding the dragon head walking stick. The 2 of them were pushed back a few steps by this force before they could stabilize themselves. At this moment, the people around them finally reacted and stood in between the 2 of them. Shadowless shouted, "Let's talk nicely. Why do you have to fight?" Fire Spirit heard this and pointed at Wu Ku Di who was lying on the ground. He yelled, "Shadowless, go ask Wu Ku Di why he attacked my big brother." Hearing this, Wu Ku Di didn't wait for Shadowless to say anything and got up while enduring the pain. He pointed at Water Spirit in the distance and angrily said, "The matter between me and Yin Dao, why are you talking nonsense?" Hearing Wu Kudi's question, Shui Lingzi said angrily, Wu Kudi, it's already late and you're still dilly-dallying. Who has time to wait for you? Wu Kudi sneered, Shui Lingzi, if you don't have time, you can leave first. No one is stopping you. After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly laughed, Wu Kedi, you said it yourself. Speaking up to hear, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, you all heard Wu Kedi's words. Now, I declare that all the conditions I agreed to are null and void. I won't be taking the 7 skills sect's people away. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, everyone was shocked. Shadowless hurriedly asked, Shui Lingzi, what are you doing? You already promised us. Why are you going back on your word? Hearing Shadowless' question, Shui Lingzi sneered and wiped the stain from the corner of her mouth before extending her hand in front of Shadowless. Shadowless, did you see that? I clearly agreed to your conditions, but in the end, I was still heavily injured by this Wu Kedi. So, I've decided to give up. Chapter 566. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kedi reluctantly stood up and angrily said, Water Spirit, even if I don't take your equipment today, I'll still settle this with you. Water Spirit heard this and sneered, all right then, I won't give you any equipment. I'll wait for you to settle this with me. After hearing the two arguing, Li Mingshan and Shadowless gave each other a look and quickly went up to stop the fight. Shadowless pulled Water Spirit and whispered, Water Spirit, this matter is about to be settled, why are you going back on your word? Water Spirit sneered, it's not that I want to go back on my words, but Wu Kedi went too far. I can't take this lying down. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless sighed and said, Shui Lingzi, why did you come here today? Are you here to get angry with Wu Kedi? Water Spirit heard this and gritted her teeth. Shadowless, I understand what you mean, but I can't take this lying down. Shadowless shook his head, no matter what you do, it won't be so smooth. For this mission, I think you should let Wu Kedi go this time. Water Spirit snorted and turned to look at Wu Kedi, I'll let him go this time, but only if he apologizes to me. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Shadowless was stunned for a moment before he bitterly smiled and said, Shui Lingzi, your request seems a bit difficult. It's not like you don't know what kind of person Wu Kedi is. Even if he was wrong, he would never admit it. Water Spirit sneered, since he won't admit it, then let's forget about today's matter. I'll admit that I was unlucky about Kikyaromen's matter. Wu Kedi can forget about getting my equipment. Let's go our separate ways. Shadowless heard this and became anxious. Water Spirit, how can you do this? We already agreed on this matter, how can you go back on your words? Shadowless paused for a bit before continuing. Water Spirit, if you give up on this mission, I'm afraid you won't be able to do anything when you go back. In my opinion, we should prioritize peace and settle this matter perfectly. This is the best way, and we shouldn't go our separate ways. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Shadowless and coldly said, Shadowless, you saw it just now. Wu Kedi didn't even greet me before suddenly attacking me. If I didn't dodge fast enough, I'm afraid I wouldn't have survived that attack. Now that I think about it, I'm still scared. He really wanted to kill me. Wu Kedi's attack was clearly seen by Shadowless. Wu Kedi's attack was indeed a surprise attack. Not only that, but his moves were also very sharp. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been killed by this move. Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Shadowless was speechless and turned to look at Wu Kudi. On the other side, Li Mingshan and Wu Kedi were also discussing this matter. Wu Kedi, what are you thinking? We're about to get the equipment, and it's all your fault. If you didn't go crazy and attack Shui Lingzi, things wouldn't be this bad. Hearing this, Wu Kedi sneered, Li Mingshan, you don't need to scold me. It's not like you didn't sneak attack Shui Lingzi, what right do you have to scold me? Hearing this, Li Mingshan angrily said, that's not the same. I know when to stop, I'm not as reckless as you. Hearing this, Wu Kedi turned to Li Mingshan and sneered, reckless? You said I'm reckless? Li Mingshan, I saw that you weren't slow either. How can you say I'm reckless now? Do you think I didn't see that when you attacked, if Shui Lingzi wasn't prepared, she would have already been killed by you? How can you say I'm reckless? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan gritted his teeth and took a deep breath before slowly saying, Wu Kedi, no matter what we did just now, we won't mention it again. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a bit before continuing. From now on, none of us can sneak attack Shui Lingzi. We need to get the equipment as soon as possible. Hearing this, Wu Kedi suddenly sighed. Li Mingshan, you think I don't want to? But things have already come to this point, what can I do? Speaking up to here, Wu Kedi turned to look at Li Mingshan. After pondering for a moment, he slowly said, Li Mingshan, there are no outsiders here, so I'll be frank. I'll use 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to exchange for that level 25 equipment of Yin Dao. What do you think? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan froze for a moment. After reacting, he immediately shook his head and flatly refused. No, I definitely won't agree. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a bit. He turned to look at Wu Kedi and suddenly sneered before continuing. Wu Kedi, if you're willing, I also want to use 2 pieces of level 20 equipment to exchange for your level 25 equipment. I don't know if you'll agree or not. Hearing this, Wu Kedi pondered for a moment before slowly saying, Li Mingshan, I know this is very unfair to you. Just tell me, if I want that level 25 equipment, what kind of price do I have to pay? Then you can give it to me. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan sneered in his heart. You want to exchange for my level 25 equipment? You're dreaming. After being in Jianghu for so many years, Li Mingshan could count the number of times he had seen level 25 equipment. Not to mention, this level 25 equipment was about to become his. Li Mingshan felt a burst of excitement when he thought of this. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed his somewhat chaotic emotions. He slowly shook his head. Wu Kedi, you also know how high level 25 equipment is. If it were you, would you exchange it with someone else? Hearing this, Wu Kedi shook his head. I wouldn't. I would wear this level 25 equipment every day. Even at night, I wouldn't take it off. Hearing Wu Kedi's answer, Li Mingshan once again sneered. Wu Kedi, you think so too? Don't tell me you think I wouldn't do that. Hearing this, Wu Kedi shook his head and suddenly sighed. Water spirit, the 2 of us aren't silver knives. We have our own thoughts, and we also have a sense of safety. We should know how to protect ourselves. At this point, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing. But if the 2 of us really have this level 25 equipment, will it really be able to protect both of us? Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan's expression suddenly changed. He asked in a low voice, Wu Kedi, what do you mean by that? Wu Kedi shook his head. Li Mingshan, I don't mean anything. I just want to tell you that even if we have this level 25 equipment, I'm afraid it won't give us a sense of safety. Chapter 567. Wu Kedi sighed and continued, this level 25 equipment with super strong defense doesn't seem to be able to bring us safety. Instead, it'll bring us danger. Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, Li Mingshan, our martial arts can barely be considered average in the South County. There are many people whose martial arts are above us. Think about it, if we have this level 25 equipment, we'll be in a lot of trouble. At this point, Wu Kedi sighed again. There are many experts who are more powerful than us. If they really want to snatch this equipment, I'm afraid it won't be long before news of us being killed spread in the underworld. Li Mingshan, think about it. Is it worth it for us to do all this for this equipment? After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan couldn't help but frown. He had to admit that what Wu Kedi said was true. Although the defense of a level 25 equipment was very strong, if someone with their level of martial arts were to wear this equipment, there would be many people who would be jealous. When that time came, it would only be a matter of time before the equipment was stolen. If they were lucky, they would only be robbed of the equipment. If they were unlucky, it wouldn't be as simple as just the equipment. They might even lose their lives. This was the truth. When the opponent stole the equipment, in order to hide their tracks and prevent others from finding out that they were the ones who stole the equipment, they would definitely kill the person who had the equipment to hide their tracks. It wasn't that Li Mingshan hadn't considered this before. However, the level 25 equipment was about to be in his hands. At this moment, he was only thinking about the benefits of the level 25 equipment. He automatically ignored the disadvantages of the level 25 equipment. Now that he was reminded by Wu Kedi, this thought immediately surged from the bottom of his heart and filled his mind in an instant. At this moment, Li Mingshan's mind was filled with thoughts of how much danger he would be in after obtaining the level 25 equipment. After a while, Li Mingshan took a deep breath and completely dispelled this thought. He then looked up at Wu Kedi and slowly said, "Wu Kedi, you're right. Wu Kedi, you're right. Possessing this level 25 equipment might bring about a disaster. However, if there's no chance to obtain level 25 equipment, it's fine. But if there's a chance to obtain level 25 equipment, I think everyone will want to try to obtain it." Hearing this, Wu Kedi sighed, "Li Mingshan, it is because of your thoughts that there are always those inhumane things happening in the underworld. You should wake up. This equipment will not bring you any good. I can guarantee that it will only bring you disaster. Just give it up." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan pondered for a moment before suddenly asking, "Wu Kedi, I admit that you're right. However, since our martial arts are similar and our status in the South County is similar, can you keep this level 25 equipment if I can't?" Wu Kedi shook his head with a bitter smile. "Li Mingshan, you're right. The two of us are about the same. In the South County, whether it's martial arts or status, we're about the same. It's a bad thing for you to get this level 25 equipment, and it's not a good thing for me to get this level 25 equipment either." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was stunned. He asked in confusion, "Wu Kedi, if you know that it will bring you disaster, why do you still want this level 25 equipment?" Wu Kedi shook his head. "Even if you agree to give it to me, I won't wear it." After saying this, Wu Kedi paused for a moment before continuing, "Li Mingshan, I can tell you the truth. I want to use this level 25 equipment to exchange for something better." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan suddenly sneered. "Wu Kedi, if that's the case, you've gotten a great deal. You've earned this equipment from me and then sold it to someone else for more benefits. Isn't that a bit disloyal?" Wu Kedi shook his head. "Li Mingshan, you're wrong. No matter what I do, I'm not sure what equipment I'll be able to exchange for, but you can get what you want. Isn't that good?" After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan shook his head. "Wu Kedi, can't I do something like this myself?" Wu Kedi shook his head. "Li Mingshan, I admit that your godly sword sect is powerful, but you don't necessarily have good information. You might not know what I know, so even if you want to exchange it for something, I'm afraid that this equipment won't be of much use in your hands." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was suddenly tempted. At this point, Li Mingshan suddenly realized that he couldn't keep this equipment in his hands. Otherwise, it might bring him disaster. The key was whether or not it was reliable to give this equipment to Wu Kedi. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan raised his head and looked at Wu Kedi. He smiled and asked, "Wu Kedi, this equipment is very precious. You and I both know this. The key is, what can you give me in exchange?" After hearing this, Wu Kedi nodded. "I just said that I'll exchange those two level 20 equipment for your level 25 equipment. What do you think?" Li Mingshan shook his head. "Nothing. I'm at a disadvantage. You should change your conditions." After hearing this, Wu Kedi thought for a moment before slowly saying, "Li Mingshan, how about this? I'll add a sword in exchange. What do you think?" After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan was suddenly interested. He hurriedly asked, "Wu Kedi, what sword?" Wu Kedi smiled and said, "I don't know what it's called. This is a sword I picked up. I saw that it was unusually sharp, so I kept it. If you like it, I can give it to you." After hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Mingshan hurriedly asked again, "Wu Kedi, have you tried it? What level is this sword?" After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Wu Kedi was stunned for a moment. He then shook his head. "I don't know. But I think it should be above level 10. Above level 10. After hearing this, Li Mingshan repeated this sentence. He then shook his head in disappointment. Wu Kedi's words were vague, and he didn't accurately state the level of the saber. Above level 10, there were many meanings in this. A level 19 equipment could be above level 10. A level 11 equipment could be above level 10. If Wu Kedi said that the equipment was level 19, then Li Mingshan wouldn't hesitate to give it to him. Don't underestimate a level 19 sword. It was probably more useful than a level 20 equipment. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.